You're rolling with Big Rig Radio 1079, the station where the coffee's strong, the signal's clear, and the only thing wider than the highway is our playlist. Keep them hammers down and them shiny sides up, good buddies. Big Rig Radio, hauling the hits coast to coast. Kick it up. Boys, wildlife fever, chrome teeth grinning, I'm gone. 18 wheels all clawing at the blacktop. Hammer down that needle's leaning mean. Coffee in a stained old thermos, sloshing. Smoke from the stacks like a steam-blown dream. Eastbound sign keeps flashing in the windshield. State line coming like a barbed wire snake.
Hey drivers, tired of eating mystery meat at them chain stops? Pull into Bubba's Big Bite Truck Oasis off exit 69. We've got showers hotter than a Georgia asphalt in July, lottery tickets that almost win, and chili so powerful it'll keep you awake clearer than a double espresso, or your money back. Bubba's Big Bite, where the food's fearless and the portions are bigger than your rig. Come on in, if you dare.
This is Big Rig Radio, keeping you updated on the blacktop. Weather ahead, clear skies and smooth sailing. But watch for them four-wheelers driving like they got a death wish. Remember, folks, life's too short to drive bored. Stay tuned for more real country on Big Rig Radio.
Signs blur past. Coffee in a paper cup, ash on the dash. A right hand on the wheel, left hand out in the wind. Every time it looks the same till I'm leaving again. White line fever got me chasing down the dark. Endless highway burning circles in my
Oh, hello there, my friends. Long time no see. Just since earlier today, huh? Hey, look. I got the VTuber calibrated correctly. I figured out how to add a button to my Stream Deck that will calibrate the VTuber remotely. So now I don't have to worry about how the hell do I turn around and calibrate media pipe on a computer that's like 10 feet away. Because when you hit the calibrate button, if you're not sitting in front of the webcam, it loses its mind. Hey, where's the person I'm tracking? I don't know. Well, problem solved. Oh my god, problem solved. First thing we have to do today, we're going to look for a job to do. First, let me... Oh, right, okay. Alright, find a job to do. So we have the wooden lowboy, which means it's all going to be heavy things. Big things. Let's see, what is there to haul today? It's probably going to be that crawler tractor. Yup. Back to Texas. Is there anywhere else we would rather go? Go to California? Forage harvester. You know, fuck it, let's do the crawler tractor all the way to Texas. Texas. Alright, so we've got a job picked. Very good. Job chosen. We know what we're getting up to today. We gotta drive to the place, pick up our load. Wrong one. There we go. Alright, let's do it, damn it.
Please proceed to the highlighted route.
We're gonna figure out how to get out of here. Okay. Looks like we're gonna have to make a scary turnaround here. This isn't where we're going. Okay. Wow, the national park has quite a lot of traffic for 5 a.m.
Would that be a price worth paying?
I think something's going to happen that's going to be very good for everybody. Nobody's done more for NATO than I have, as I said before, in every way. Getting them to go up to
All right,
percent of
of course.
GDP was something that nobody thought was possible, and pay. At 2% they weren't paying. At 5% they are paying.
Oh, this guy's sitting here.
They're buying a lot of
This guy was
things
sitting
from
there
us,
waiting on
and
me
they're
to go,
giving
and I
them,
didn't
guess,
even
to
notice.
Ukraine. That's up to them.
Now I got
They're giving
traffic.
them to whoever
Fuck.
they're giving them to, but they're buying a lot. I think
No,
that
come on.
we will
Each of these
work
guys are
something out
stopping
where
to let
NATO's
me
gonna
in,
be very happy,
but only for like a
and
second.
we're going to be very happy. But
So,
we need
thanks
it
for that.
for security purposes. We need it for national security and even world security.
Mr. Trump's designs on territorial expansion have led to reaction amongst many other
Alright, this is
Western
gonna suck.
countries. President Emmanuel Macron of France accused the US
This is
of trying
gonna
to
suck a lot.
weaken and subordinate Europe and warned
Oh, sorry,
the leaders of a shift
Totally just
towards
bumped
a
the shit
world
out of that guy's
without
car.
rules. Jürgen Hart is the foreign policy spokesperson for the parliamentary group in Germany, led by Chancellor
Getting out of here totally requires
We have
both of these
President
lanes.
of the United States we never had before.
Dude, I'm trying not to hit your truck,
He
I
wants
promise.
not only to make America great again, he wants to make America greater again. His idea is Donald Trump will be the president of the 21st century that increased the territory. And this is what we
There's no
cannot
way I'm
accept.
getting out of here.
Our economics editor Faisal Islam is in Davos and has been assessing the mood ahead of the president's
Oh my god, I'm free.
Donald Trump may enter Davos like a new sheriff with his own rules for the world, but there are signs that long-standing allies of the US
Only with minimum
are ready to
beating the
push
shit
back.
out of my trailer.
The president's repeated statements on
It's
territorial
fine. You're allowed to do
expansion,
that.
especially over the past few days, have seriously alarmed most other Western countries.
That's okay.
The
You
French
are
president
allowed to do
criticized
that.
what he called a new colonialism, and the Canadian Prime Minister stressed the need for the rest of the world to work together. The question
Wow,
for today
National
is to what
Park's
extent
busy
the
as
president
hell
will
this
push
morning.
The new US national
Holy
security
shit.
strategy, which shocked Europe by praising radical opposition groups as a means to prevent what it called civilizational erasure. Non-American voices here in Davos perceive a lack of appetite in the US Congress for a Greenland takeover and fear further skittishness in markets. The US Treasury Secretary implored Europe not to panic and keep the faith. But the audience here will make their own judgment this afternoon.
Faisal Islam reporting from Davos.
I'm never coming back here.
Now they're the sounds
Come
you hear
on.
from outside a court in the Japanese city of Nara.
Somebody
where
nut the fuck up and go.
staged a small demonstration in support of Tetsuya Yamagami, the man accused of the murder of the former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe back in 2022. Mr. Abe was shot with a homemade gun in Nara City in western Japan while campaigning for his re-election. Our correspondent Shama
Turn
Khalil
right.
is in Tokyo and is following the story.
The sentencing today was of Tetsuya Yamagami, the man who pled guilty for the assassination of Shinzo Abe. He was in the court.
Check that out.
and
You
he
can
sat
kinda
quietly,
trigger people
his
to go if you
hands
beep
on his
it.
lap, his head down, as
Good.
his life in prison sentence was being read to him. Outside the district court, we've been watching footage all day, really, of people lining up in the cold, trying to get into the court. There were hundreds outside the court, and there were very limited
California,
seats
that
inside
stopped.
the court because they wanted to witness that moment. Because, of course, the assassination of Shinzo Abe shocked Japan. It shocked the world for so many reasons, but it also led to a political fallout. And that very moment where he was going to receive that sentence was going to be a very key moment in a case that has really stunned a country that is not used to political violence on
Oh
that
my God, all
level,
these
not
stop
used to gun
signs.
violence on that level.
And what did we learn
Traffic
today
in this
about
game is
Tetsuya
entirely
Yamagami
too
and his
polite for stop
motivation
signs.
for the murder during this trial?
Well, throughout the trial, Tetsuya Yamagami was talking about his motive, talking about the hardships that he faced mentally and growing up within his family. And this is because his mother was a devout follower to the controversial Unification Church, and she'd made immense amounts of donations that he said had left his family bankrupt. And throughout the last few months, as he took to the stand and spoke to the judges, He spoke about how this affected him mentally, how the hardships that he faced growing up. There was a standout moment when he was speaking and the judge was asking him how old he was, or to confirm that he was 45 years old. And he was silent, and he said, I did not expect to live that long. And it just gave you an idea about his mental state at that moment. We also learned that he decided to kill Shinzo Abe because of what he learned about his links to the Unification Church, his close links to the controversial church. And so on the 8th of July in 2022, as Shinzo Abe was giving a political speech in broad daylight in support of a local candidate in Nara district, Yamagami walked up to him and shot him at close range using a homemade gun. And again, that was quite shocking, and it stunned Japan. Of course, because of who Shinzo Abe was. He was the former prime minister, but he was still the longest-serving prime minister.
We miss Shinzo Abe.
Figure.
I miss Shinzo Abe.
Because gun violence in Japan is so rare.
Mostly, to be honest, I miss the relationship he had with Trump.
Taken to hospital and then pronounced dead.
I especially liked all those memes that came out
the nation, but it then
when Trump won the election.
Into the motives and into the Unification Church.
Shama Khalil reporting
about Trump keeping the memory of Shinzo Abe
now, when
alive.
It comes to 2024's failed martial law attempt in South Korea, those involved are increasingly feeling the force of the law. Former President Yoon Suk-yeol has already
we should have stopped at the gift shop.
Jail sentence.
Oh, I keep forgetting you guys can't see my right and left mirror monitors. You can only see the center one.
President Lee Jae-myung is trying to get on with the job at hand and has issued a stark warning about the nuclear capabilities of their northern neighbours. Here to tell us more about both of these stories is Jake Kwon, our correspondent in Seoul. Jake, thanks so much for your time. Let's start off then with the former Prime Minister.
Anyway, we just passed the gift shop for the state park.
Sentence, it seems.
Yes, I mean, 23 years was really unexpected. The prosecutors have asked for 15 years for helping and neglecting his duty as a prime minister to uphold the constitution and uphold the law here when, the former President Yoon Suk-yeol had launched this short-lived martial law. So it came as a big shock. He listened as the judge read out his verdict, and the judge was calling it an insurrection and a coup d'etat, a loyalist coup, is what happened in December, and that he had the duty as the prime minister to stop it, and that instead he had not exercised his power. He definitely had the power to stop it, but instead he helped Mr. Yoon by legitimizing this martial law, by convening the cabinet members to give it this patina of legality, by also falsifying some of the documents to legitimize it as well afterwards, and that he was really looking out for himself instead of thinking of the law and the people. Mr. Han was taken into custody and sent to prison immediately after that on the judge's order, and this is only the lower court's decision, and this is quite considering this is a very lengthy sentence and considering his advanced age, it's very easy to imagine that he will appeal this decision, and he has 7 days to come back and appeal.
Okay, the former president, you mentioned Yoon Suk-yeol, he could still be facing potentially the death penalty?
Exactly, and this is why today's sentencing was such a big moment and has huge implication for Yoon Suk-yeol as well, because he is fighting a separate trial, this charge of leading an insurrection, and this is the most serious crime in South Korean law, and this is a charge that carries either the death sentence or life in prison. Now, South Korea has not carried out a death sentence in 29 years, and it is essentially a life in prison sentence, but because those are the only options, he really is fighting tooth and nail to get an acquittal here. But if this separate court had found that what Mr. Yoon did that day was an insurrection and was a coup d'etat, it really does not bode well for Mr. Yoon's own trial, which is coming on February 19th. That's when we'll hear the verdict.
And just to finish off with Jake, this nuclear warning from the country's current president, what can you tell us more about that?
Well, Lee Jae-myung, the new president, today he was talking about what he's doing to really facilitate a better relationship with North Korea. And he said that we really need to be realistic here, and that we cannot rely on ideology and rely on what is right and wrong in order to get that final goal of denuclearization. And he reiterated what a dangerous situation that we're in, that North Korea each year is producing the fissile material, this material to make 10 to 20 nuclear bombs. So he says that this is really a dire situation, and he's going to do all he can to really start the conversation with the North.
Okay, Jake, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. Jake Kwon reporting from Seoul. You're listening to the newsroom from the BBC. A reminder of our top story. President Trump is on his way to address the World Economic Forum in Switzerland after opening a deep rift in transatlantic relations with his ambition to annex Greenland. Okay, let's turn our attentions to Iran now. Several thousand people are thought to have been killed by the Iranian security forces in recent anti-government protests. Many relatives have found it difficult to identify their loved ones who have died. Photos leaked to BBC Verify show the faces of hundreds of people killed in the violent crackdown. The images were displayed in a South Tehran mortuary and were one of the few ways to identify the dead. Let's get more now from Merlin Thomas from the BBC Verify team, who joins me live in the newsroom studio. Thanks so much for coming in. Just first up, what have you seen and what have you been told so far?
I was sent a secret folder of hundreds of photos from this mortuary in South Tehran, and these are victims of people who were killed during the Iranian government's crackdown on protesters. Now, we've blurred these images to show viewers and audiences, but they show really close-up, bloodied, bruised, swollen faces of dead men and women. These are people who were killed in the crackdown. Now, these pictures were used as a way for families to try and identify their loved ones, and we were told that families were huddled around a screen in a mortuary, essentially watching a slideshow of dead bodies for hours. And we've combed through these images and we've identified at least 326 victims, including 18 women. Now, we were told that victims were so disfigured at times that even their loved ones couldn't identify them. And we were also told there were victims as young as 12 or 13. We've separately corroborated that by viewing a different video, which we've also verified, in which we see what appears to be the body of a child.
Sounds extremely harrowing and difficult to digest, and you and the BBC Verify team have been tracking the spread of anti-government protests. How are you going about doing this? But also the challenge of facing an internet blackout as well, that must cause issues too.
Absolutely. The internet blackout has been almost total for nearly 2 weeks now, and there have been dribs and drabs of information kind of coming out in pockets, and this is one of those pockets of information that have come out, but it shows just how desperate people are to get this sort of information out into the world, to show people what is happening to protesters inside Iran, but also what's happening to the families left behind. And they're going to extreme lengths and at great personal risk to themselves to share this information.
What about a response from the Iranian state? Have we heard anything from them?
The Iranian Supreme Leader has admitted and publicly acknowledged that thousands have been killed, but he blames the US, Israel, and what he calls seditionists for this.
Okay, Merlin, appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming into the newsroom studio. That's Merlin Thomas from our BBC Verify team. Now, a person has died and several others injured in northern Spain after a commuter train collided with a collapsed wall west of the city of Barcelona. It's a second fatal rail crash in 3 days. Earlier in the week in Cordoba in southern Spain, two high-speed trains collided, killing...
I wonder if that light's going to change or if I'm sitting here for no reason.
Let's get more from our correspondent, Sergi Focala, who joins us now from Cordoba. Sergi, thank you so much again for your time. What do we know then about what's happened to the train in Catalonia?
Heavy machinery is still on the site on the crash, and in the last few hours emergency services managed to recover the 3 remaining bodies that were still trapped inside the carriages. Now they believe that there's none of the bodies in there. The death toll at 42 people, and local officials here saying that they believe that that may be either the final number or very close to it. Still over 30 people in hospital.
Yeah, light's green. Why aren't you going, buddy?
In intensive care unit, and investigation still ongoing, because as of now, the cause of the incident is still unknown.
Buggy ass traffic.
Accident on Sunday in Spain. Then elsewhere in Spain, Sergi, an accident near Barcelona. What is the latest in the investigation and what's happened there?
Yeah, so these two
So we're gonna
incidents
do
unrelated,
highly,
but obviously in the same country, in the northeast. What happens now is that all train services in Catalonia are currently suspended.
These two dipshits here have sat through two green lights.
Derailment
So we're gonna do some super rebel behavior.
One person was killed, and we now know that the person that died was a man in his late 20s who was actually doing in the train as part of his training to become a driver. There were actually two derailments yesterday in Catalonia. One in Gelida, which is the one that caused one dead and also over 30 injured.
Look,
but
to be
there
honest, that's what's going to happen.
was also a second derailment as well because of the bad weather in another location in Catalonia. In that case, though, without any injuries. But because of these two incidents, right now, all the train services in Catalonia for the suburban network is currently suspended. This morning, there are people checking the rails, and in fact, in the last hour or so, some of those emergency services checking the rails have already found some rot. So local officials are saying that until everything is checked and they are making sure that there's nothing, no hazard for any of those trains, the service is still going to be suspended. And this is creating quite a bit of chaos because obviously many people go from the rest of Catalonia into Barcelona by using those trains to work mainly. And we just heard in the last few minutes that one of the universities in Barcelona has decided to cancel all the exams that were scheduled for today because they believe that their students will not be able to make it on time.
Well, that was our correspondent Sergi Fracada in Cordoba, speaking a little earlier to my colleague Karin Giannone. Now, whether it's creating violent and gory content or depicting self-harm, there are things most parents would probably agree they don't want their children using AI for. But stopping it happening is proving to be a big problem for the likes of ChatGPT. The chatbot's creators have
the only thing NPR talks about is Donald Trump and AI.
Surprisingly, they say the answer can be found within the AI itself. The Newsroom's Will Chalk follows AI stories for us and has been looking over this one and joins me now. Will, more on this one.
Yeah, so, I mean, if people don't use ChatGPT, I think it can be quite easy to kind of shrug these stories off, but the app says it's approaching around 1 billion users, and to take just one bit of research out of the US, 86% of the school students that a charity spoke to said they're using AI, so clearly this is the thing that particularly younger people are integrating into their everyday lives. But as you said, keeping it safe for under 18s hasn't always been easy, and perhaps kind of the biggest, most explosive, shocking cases is the lawsuits that ChatGPT are facing, alleging that it encouraged people, including teenagers, to take their own lives. Now, OpenAI, ChatGPT's creator, denies this, and these cases are still going through the courts as well. The company has also repeatedly spoken about the lengths it goes to keep young people safe, and that brings us to today. So OpenAI, ChatGPT's creators, have started rolling out this new age verification tool. So historically and at the moment, users provide their age. You just simply tell it. You tell it how old you are, it believes you, and then you can use it. Yeah. Now, ChatGPT says it's going to start monitoring users and seeing if it can use other clues. Either things to do with your account or how you're using it to work out your age. And if it suspects that you are then under 18,
out of small town hell.
Extra safeguards.
Well, actually, getting out of the national
and if you
park,
are actually an adult, and
then getting out of small town hell.
Using it, you can then use a selfie or some ID to prove your age and get your account back.
Okay, then with something that things like AI, how easy is it then to restrict?
Well, this is the endless battle that ChatGPT faces between freedom of expression and safety. So you listed a couple of them before, but the things that ChatGPT says it will restrict if it thinks you're under 18 are graphic violence, viral challenges that could encourage risky behaviour, sexual, romantic or violent roleplay, depictions of self-harm, and content that promotes things like body shaming. Now, these are things that some people would say it's not healthy.
I saw a joke on X earlier that said all 5 of the suicides caused by ChatGPT were because it answered honestly when transgenders asked if they passed. I wonder if that's true.
Chapter about a fight or something.
Kind of doubt it.
As you doing violent content, and
sounds like one of those
this is the
joke things people say.
To strike, right? On one hand, freedom of expression, let people use their tool as freely as possible. On the other hand, stopping it feeding dangerous information to vulnerable people. They would say they're already doing this. They would say this tool is further evidence of that. But I think it needs to be rolled out for a bit before we can see how well it actually works.
Okay, Will, thank you so much for that. Will Chalk live in the newsroom studio with that story. Thanks ever so much for your company and listening to the newsroom from the BBC World Service with me, Ankur Desai, and from the team. Thanks so much.
Man, we haven't even picked up our load yet.
Distribution of the BBC World Service in the United States is made possible by American Public Media, producer and distributor of award-winning public radio content, engaging audiences, creating meaningful experiences, and fostering conversations. APM, American Public Media, with support from Odoo, offering software that provides building blocks for creating a custom software suite. Odoo, what small businesses need.
Come on, where's my fucking...
Travel can open your mind and heart to new experiences, new people, and
say the rangefinder says 1 mile.
Join me for an hour each week.
It has certainly been more than a mile in game.
Affordable and culturally expanding ways to experience the world. We'll meet authors, guides, and fellow travelers who can inform and inspire us to find our own adventures near and far from home. Join us for Travel with Rick Stevens.
Travel with Rick Steves, Saturdays at 6 a.m. on News 88.7.
Coming up on Business Daily on the BBC World Service, I'm in the country that makes the most cars in the world.
We have Volkswagen, Kia,
sorry, I'm a smoker, so lots of coffee.
In Slovakia.
It's partly the wages.
I would say 60% of the Western wages in Eastern Europe.
Man, the only thing, I like the rain. The rain's fine. It just annoys me because it kills frame rate. And,
BBC News with Tom Sanders. The BBC has seen photos of hundreds of victims of the bloody suppression.
It's funny, as I said, oh man, I haven't seen rain in so long the other day.
Thousands are thought to have
and now I'm
been
getting
killed by the
rain
Iranian state.
every extreme.
The European Commission President Ursula von der
You have
Leyen
arrived
said
at your
Europe needs
destination.
to speed up its push for independence to defend itself in an increasingly lawless world. To sustain
get our load
she
here.
stressed that the future of Greenland was up to its people. The man who assassinated the former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe in 2022 has been sentenced to life in prison. Tetsuya Yamagami
we were
used
taking a
homemade
tractor.
gun to kill Mr. Abe at a rally. The world's biggest nuclear power plant is due to restart operations in Japan for the first time since the 2011 Fukushima disaster. The move at the Kashiwazaki Kariwa plant comes despite safety
I guess we're
concerns
taking the
among
harvester.
local residents. A court in Seoul has found that the former South Korean Prime Minister Han Duck-seo guilty of insurrection and sentenced to 23 years in jail. It relates to his involvement in the failed attempt by the then president to impose martial law 13 months ago. The biggest train drivers' union in Spain has called for a strike after a second fatal rail crash in 3 days. It described the deterioration of the railway sector as unacceptable.
Alright, cargo is ready to be loaded.
After the country's leading pole vaulter and his teammates were barred from a train for trying to board while carrying poles. Ticket inspectors called the equipment steel pipes and said they were too big. Finally, the American astronaut Sally Williams, who made headlines when she was stranded on the International Space Station, has announced her retirement. The 2024 mission with Butch Wilmore, scheduled for a week, lasted 9 months. BBC News.
Welcome to Business Daily from the BBC World Service. I'm John Lawrenson. Today, I'm in the country that makes the highest number of cars per capita in the world.
We have Volkswagen, Kia, Stellantis, Jaguar, Land Rover, and Volvo. And these guys are building 10 different brands in Slovakia.
When this East European country was part of the Czechoslovak Socialist Republic, the cars it made there were, by Western standards, poorly finished, noisy, thirsty and slow. But after the Velvet Revolution ended communist rule and the Czechs and Slovaks agreed to split into two independent countries, Volkswagen bought and overhauled the old Czechoslovak carmaker Skoda, and other foreign automobile manufacturers started investing here too. Now Slovakia makes almost 1 million cars a year. Soon, with Volvo opening a factory here in 2027, it'll be 250,000 more. Extraordinary for a country of 5 million people.
I like the fact that thanks to that, the production supports our society.
We'll be taking apart the motor of the Slovak car industry to see how it works. Coming up in Business Daily from the BBC. Surrounded by mountains covered in snow, in a huge factory of corrugated grey-green metal, a lift lowers the steel bodies of cars onto the start of an assembly line. They've just been welded together by robots, 690 of whom work in this factory. Now, an army of human workers in red trousers and white t-shirts will transform these steel shells into finished cars, one of which drives off the end of the assembly line every minute, flashing its headlights. This is the European factory of the Korean car manufacturer Kia, just outside the Slovak city of Žilina. 3,700 people work here, including assembly line workers
Close enough.
48 and Simona Beneva, 23. How do you like this
proceed to the highlighted route.
Oh, I very like it. Yeah. From the child, cars is my passion. Yeah. And now I am the part of the team, and I can make the cars. So that's something that's a dream work.
Wow, it's huge.
Is it a well-paid job?
I think it is, because
Alright, we are particularly low, not particularly, but we're down to a quarter tank, so let's plot gas out sooner rather than later.
Is the best in this region.
Marcel tells me that he worked for a number of years in the UK, Northern Ireland mainly, before landing this job back in his native Slovakia. As for Simona, she was studying business before. This is not
Please
her dream
proceed to
job,
the
she
highlighted
tells me,
route.
but it does have its good
Get out of here.
Half of my
Straight
family
shot
works
out.
here, so I wanted to try. I like the people, I like working with people, and
salary's okay?
Yes, it's very good in comparison with other companies. I earn about 1,300
euros, just over $1,500.
Beacon on.
Later on, that will rise. Kia says the average salary here is about $2,800. Are you proud of Slovakia's performance when it comes to car production?
Yes, I'm proud of that. I like the fact that thanks to that, the production supports our society.
Practically everyone who works here is local. The Korean presence is a few dozen senior managers who live in a gated community they built specially on the outskirts of a village a couple of kilometers away.
Oh look, more spam. Yo, what's up? I am really impressed in your specific games you plays, and I see you have been putting effort to get more audiences and engagement, and I will glad to work on your channel to reach more than 1,000 followers. Wow. 50 average viewers, 100 chatters, and 25 subscribers, earning up to $500 in your stream. If you are interested to grow your channel and want to earn from your stream, hit me up on Discord, the fucking loser 001. Yeah, I'm sure, like, what is the point of botted likes, viewers, like, what's the goal there? I mean, for one, I only play one goddamn game on stream. One game. I'm making no effort to grow my audience or my subscribers. I really, I'm gonna be honest, don't care that much.
Which is why they're investing.
I just think it's kind of neat.
It's a big factory with a maximum capacity.
What do I care if I have 100 bot chatters? Who gives a shit?
1,000 units.
I don't see the point.
Produce more than 5 million cars, and it is representing 8% of the Kia's global workforce. The factory was
like, oh man, 150 Indians are watching my channel, and 200 other channels on their gigantic iPhone bot farm. Who gives a fuck?
Where are we selling the cars you make here?
90% of the production is dedicated, let's say, to Europe, responsibility. So this is the big Europe up to Turkey. Actually, the biggest country is the UK. So you may know that in the UK we are number 3 on the passenger car market. Then we have the following key markets for us are Spain,
that harvester
Italy,
is heavy.
and Germany.
Feel the trailer tipping.
A good place to build cars. Slovakia is really in the heart of Europe, quite well connected. Let's say to the big markets. The quality of the manpower was also, let's say, very important. So Slovakia gives us access to a skilled local workforce and high quality supplier. Slovakia is the biggest producer of cars in the world per capita. So the supplier base is enormous. This is critical.
Why here rather than in Korea?
Producing closer to your customer is always an advantage. It allows you also, let's say, to have a smaller lead time. So some
I have to
customers
figure
are
out
not
how
ready, let's say,
to
wait
set up
3,
moderator
4, 5, 6
to get rid of
months to
spam
get
like that.
You have also new developments that we have seen recently in Europe.
Interestingly, I haven't seen any spam come through Twitch chat or YouTube chat. Oh shit, I should have grabbed that.
If you don't produce in Europe, you are not
allowed to skip
eligible, let's say, to the electric car.
I haven't seen any spam warning or spam come through Twitch or YouTube. It's just Kick. Yeah, I know I'm speaking. Sorry.
There's
Right down,
also,
couple mile an hour.
historically, a sizable wage gap between East and West Europe.
Keep to the right,
is
and
the
then
Czech
continue
German head
straight.
of GIV, a management consulting firm that advises clients in the automotive sector on things like where to locate production, how to stabilize supply chains, and how to run factories more efficiently.
The first story began with cost advantage. When Volkswagen PSA had expanded eastwards in the 90s and 2000s, so wages were far lower than in Germany or in French or other Western countries, but the region was inside the European Union or on the way to join it. The labor cost was 20% of the labor cost in Germany.
Wow, 1 to 5.
Yes, on the beginning, definitely.
Is it still a good bet going to East Central Europe?
Yes, maybe. On one hand, you have still low wages.
How much lower now?
I would say 60%. 60% of the Western wages in Eastern Europe still.
Keep to the right.
But you have also
and
high
then
productivity.
continue straight.
So it's definitely competitive.
The acquisition of the land the Kia factory complex stands on, which is the size of 270 football pitches and belonged to dozens of private owners, was a complicated legal and
red light for nobody.
It couldn't have been done without the efforts of the municipality, and the local authorities still work closely with Kia. At the moment, for example, they're pushing forward the building of a new highway between Žilina and Poland, which would be useful for the company's logistics. It does all this because when a car firm like this moves in, the investment is colossal.
God, I wish people in real life were as cautious as they are in Truck Simulator.
As the mayor of Žilina,
You got people yielding on arrows and shit. Jesus Christ.
has been a boom for this city.
Ten hlavný benefit je, že vďaka prítomnosti
It has been a huge decline in unemployment and a significant increase in the economic strength of the region. And today more than 20,000 people are directly employed by Kia and other companies that are linked to Kia by production. Today in Žilina we have also other innovative companies, as for example IT Cluster or the University of Žilina.
Máme Žilinskú univerzitu,
It's a similar story in some other cities, thanks to Volkswagen in Bratislava, Stellantis, formerly Peugeot Citroën in Trnava, Jaguar Land Rover in Nitra, and Volvo building its new plant in
It's 11:30 in game.
And feeding those
11:30 in the morning.
with parts are over
Stop and get breakfast. Well, what time do they stop making breakfast to McDonald's?
60% of
10:30.
investment in Slovakia
Guess
is
we're
in
too
the
late.
automotive sector, says Robert Semoncic, CEO of the Slovak Investment and Trade Development Agency. To attract these car makers, or OEMs, original equipment manufacturers, the government also offers sweeteners, he says.
Incentives could be in two forms. It's either cash grant, which is basically a percentage of that capital investment from the beginning can be reimbursed, or also the tax vacation, if you will, for 10 years for an investment. And also we have some deductible for R&D in their tax returns potentially. So it is an important factor, mainly for these huge multi-billion-dollar investments.
Kia didn't want to go into detail about the government incentives it received for coming here, but Mark Edwish did say it received a tax credit of $34 million for transforming its production lines for its new electric vehicles, the total cost of which was $126 million. The government therefore contributed just over a quarter of the cost there. This, says Robert Semoncic, is representative.
Typically, the
Don't do it. Guy's gonna try and pass me.
Are based on the region. In Slovakia, it can go from like 20 to 40 or 50% potentially. Now, Slovakia prefers tax vacation more than cash grants because that's more palatable for the country.
You're listening to Business Daily on the BBC World Service. I'm John Norris, and today I'm looking at the success of the car industry in Slovakia. At the Žilina Technical School, two 18-year-olds operate a robot that uses a pneumatic piston that they programmed to pick things up. Kia bought the robot. It sponsors a dual education program here. Around 100 students alternate each week between studying at the school and working at the factory.
My name is Richard Chabada. I'm 18 years old and I go to the school because I thought it will be cool, you know. I liked doing things with electricity and doing mechanical things, repairing them and looking into them. I'm in the dual education program. When I'm in school, I get payments like 300 euros
need you guys
per
to
3
stop.
months, based on how good my grades are.
Okay.
You go to work there.
What are you fucking doing here? What are you fucking... Stop it. Jerk off.
Maintenance workers or
Jesus fucking Christ.
What do you want to do?
I'm like half in the lane because I avoided an accident.
Well, I would like to be the
and people are passing me in the lane.
Because
I swear to God, the traffic in this game, sometimes it's incredibly cautious. Sometimes it's just pants on head insane.
So you learn something new.
This school is quite popular. There are more people wanting to come here than there are places, which is also the case at Žilina University. When I visited, it was late on a Friday afternoon and there weren't many students about. But there were loads of 11, 12, 13 and 14-year-olds taking part in a sort of
that's what we like, wide open roads.
Olympic Games, where the children's robots compete to follow a squiggly line on the ground.
And gas, where's my gas station?
Battle and jousting competitions. This university, one of the top 3 in Slovakia.
Quit camping in the left lane. Jesus Christ.
Joseph Ristvej, Vice Rector for International Relations and Marketing, it has a strong technical speciality.
I swear to God, I'm gonna fucking eradicate somebody here shortly.
From University of Transportation. So automotive is in our heart, and that's what we have in connection and in common with Kia. We have mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, informatics, information technologies and security.
Turn left. 8,000 students study here, and, says Joseph Ristvej, their prospects are good.
Definitely they can expect a job after they graduate. That's the most important part of today. Our students are really prepared for industry. Slovakia is an industrial country, and that's what we are proud of. they can really go to the companies once they graduate. In the middle management and higher management.
Alright, we'll get gas real quick. Fuel, rather. $800 to fill the tanks. Alright, let me see if my pipes are unfrozen yet, and I'll be right back. No, obviously not. Obviously the pipes are still frozen as hell. It's like 2 degrees outside, of course. Like 2 degrees, cold as hell.
But for the time being at least, Slovaks can be proud. This is a small country, a relatively poor one by European standards, but when it comes to making cars, Slovakia is a giant. You've been listening to Business Daily from the BBC World Service. From me, John Lawson, goodbye.
BBC World Service and now Witness History with me, Jane Wilkinson. I'm taking you back to World War II for what's been described as the most audacious hoax in military history, Operation Mincemeat. It's the early hours of the 30th of April 1943 and the body of a British naval officer has been washed up on a Spanish beach. The dead man is holding top secret papers revealing details of a planned Allied invasion, and it's not long before they fall into enemy hands.
And of course it's a great story. The idea of the British government requisitioning a corpse and floating a body of straw from a submarine, clutching a briefcase full of documents is pretty amazing, and Churchill had to authorise it in person.
That's Roger Morgan, a retired planning officer from London, and we'll get to his role in this story later. But first, let's meet the man behind the hoax. Lieutenant Commander Ewan Montague, head of a British naval intelligence team, Germans into believing that the Allies plan to land in Greece and Sardinia.
It all started through a wild idea of George's. Of course, that wasn't his real name.
To find a corpse, to carry that fake intelligence.
The difficulty with which we were...
Nope, run that red light. And then we got the very tail end of it. Take it.
Turn right. Use the right lane ahead.
found this AI music channel because I was trying to find some music to listen to that wouldn't get me like DMCA slaughtered, but it has to be an M3U station that I can load through ATS, so I can switch channels. And man, this station just plays nothing but looping hip hop. Like, it definitely didn't advertise itself that way. When I found it, it was just like, submit your AI music, and we're a 24/7 AI music channel. And like, that's cool, but it's just looping beats. Like, there's no music to listen to unless you like looping beats. Disappointing sometimes.
Alright. Zagged across the sky and finally came to rest in the field in front of them. The startled farm workers watched the amazing sight, noticing that a door or portal on the ship.
This is UFO Radio, another station I found. It seems to play like old spooky audio, radio clips,
they were about the size
radio shows.
To 10-year-old child.
I was trying to find an old Art Bell Coast to Coast stream.
As the creatures stood,
a couple I found weren't M3U compatible, weren't with ATS.
What this gesture was meant
I tried to put InfoWars on here, but theirs wouldn't work either.
Might the sticks have been some type of camera or probe?
Who wouldn't want to listen
One
to
of the strange beings then brought out a different type of tool that looked, quote,
Coast to Coast and InfoWars.
He began using it to dig and poke into the soil near his feet. Using the tool, he scooped out a sample of dirt and put it inside a bag he was carrying. Finally, the creature picked up a small...
Oh my god, more spam. Oh, actually, look, Twitch spam. For once, it's not just Kick.
The two humanoids once again pointed the
let's squad up soon. I've got a few tips I think you'll find useful. Hit me up on Discord. What do you mean, squad up? This game doesn't have squads, my man. It has convoys. At least get your fucking spam order. Like, if you're going to spam format, like, make it topical to the game people are playing. So if you join, like, a racing game and you're like, let's squad up, you fucking douchebag. Obviously, we're not squatting up. I'm not fooled by your spam. Now, if you were like, hey, man, let's make a convoy together sometime, I might be fooled. Probably not, but...
You have just listened to a brief excerpt
be more hopeful
from the book UFOs and the Roaring Twenties, written by Noe Torres and John LeMay. The book is available for purchase at roswellbooks.com. Please consider supporting our radio station by purchasing a copy. Thank you, and happy listening.
Roswell UFO Radio, featuring the internet's deepest library of amazing and surprising sci-fi drama, including many rarities heard nowhere else. Tune us in for hand-picked, award-winning radio programs such as Quiet Please, Suspense, Escape, Lights Out, Mysterious Traveler, X-1, and many more. Enjoy retro radio drama at its very best. Roswell UFO Radio, beaming sci-fi to our world and beyond.
This is Walter O'Keefe, inviting you to listen in on him.
You can get the birth certificates, death certificates. He was clearly homeless in London.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to find more radio stations. I'd really like to find an article. Right now I have 2 NPR stations, UFO radio, and AI music, which is really just looping beats radio.
His family were very insistent that he wasn't a tramp. It didn't match with how they remembered him as dapper, happy-go-lucky individual.
I would like to express our indebtedness to the man who lies in peace in the cemetery at Welver, to Major Martin, the man who never was.
But strangely, they left a space at the bottom of the gravestone, big enough for the Imperial War Museum. They've added the inscription, Glendower Michael served as Major William Martin.
The story later inspired 2 films and several books. Ewan Montague died in 1985. Roger Morgan was talking to me, Jane Wilkinson, for Witness History.
The Supreme Court hears arguments in a case that could give President Trump and future presidents unprecedented control over the Federal Reserve and issues Trump's attempt to fire Lisa Cook, a Fed governor. Learn more on the next morning edition from NPR News.
This morning from 5 to 9 on Public Radio 89.5 and online at publicradiotulsa.org.
Support for Public Radio Tulsa is provided by Signature Symphony, presenting Aaron Copland and the Wild West, a wild ride of a concert featuring cowboy songs and folk melodies, January 24th at 7:30 at the TCC Vantrease Pace. More at signaturesymphony.org.
Yeah, I might explore playing other games on stream.
Public Radio 89.5. KWJS,
really, I just set this all up because I wanted to truck and stream. I have this weird preoccupation with myself
Paddy farmers in
gaming
eastern India are
doesn't
coping with our warming
give
world
any value
by going back
unless
in time.
there's
They're using the same varieties of rice
if nothing was
that their
achieved,
parents
like if you
grew.
didn't do
Varieties
anything
which naturally
while
tolerate
gaming,
the
there was no
impacts
point
of
in doing
climate
it in the
change
first
well.
place. And so games like this are a good distraction and a time waster, but they never feel like you're accomplishing anything, even though I enjoy doing them.
Tolerating salinity, we realized through experimentation that these were
So in order
actually
to make
the same seeds that my father
sim
and
gaming
grandfather used to
feel
grow.
like doing
On the
something
climate question
rather
from the
than just
BBC World
wasting
Service,
time.
a tale of culinary rediscovery.
Because then there's proof units.
She's saying when I cook indigenous rice, the aroma is so fragrant that everyone in the neighborhood knows that they see rice is being cooked because of just the aroma.
Join me, Greer Jackson, after the latest news.
BBC News with Govinda Gill. Photos shown to the BBC's Verify service reveal the faces of people killed in Iran's violent suppression of anti-government protests. Many showed the injuries sustained by demonstrators. Merlin Thomas reports.
Hundreds of photos leaked to BBC Verify
you get
reveal the
followers,
bloody,
people
swollen,
enjoy watching
bruised
and
faces
interacting
of at least
with people.
326 victims, including 18 women. We've been told that in the mortuary, relatives and friends were huddled around a screen, trying to identify their loved ones from hundreds of images of the dead. The slideshow is said to have lasted for hours, with the injuries of many victims so severe that the people couldn't be recognized. Labels on more than 100 victims showed the date they died as the 9th of January, one of the deadliest nights for protesters in Tehran so far.
The European Commission President has said Europe needs to speed up its push for independence to defend itself in an increasingly lawless world. Ursula von der Leyen told the European Parliament that while Europe prefers dialogue, it is prepared to act with urgency and determination.
Although I saw a video on YouTube
She
once
also
that they don't
stressed that the
actually do
future of
anything.
Greenland was unequivocal.
Greenland is not just a territory in a key region of the world map and a land rich in critical raw materials. But above all, Greenland is home to a free and sovereign people and its right to territorial integrity, and the future of Greenland is only for the Greenlanders to decide.
That shit's funny. We're a sovereign people. You have a king. Denmark has a king.
President Trump is on
he's
his
about
way
to
to the
sell
World
Denmark to the
Economic
United
Forum in
States.
Switzerland, which has been dominated by
We're gonna buy
concerns
that
about
shit.
his determination to annex Greenland.
be
He's due to address the gathering
a lot
later
of money.
after his flight was delayed by technical
We're gonna build
problems.
nuke silos.
On Tuesday, European leaders hit out at what they've called his neo-colonial ambitions to acquire Greenland. He's threatened to
Gotta
sign
admit, a
additional
little jealous of
tariffs
the
on European
Greenlanders who
countries
might be
that
getting a
oppose him.
$100,000 or
Our
$50,000 payment.
They have these economic measures up
Hell,
their sleeve,
become
but they
American
are waiting
citizens,
for the
get
speech today from
$100,000.
Donald Trump. Is he going to go ahead with his threat of new tariffs?
Day-to-day
Is he
life
going to
doesn't
go
really
ahead
change.
with the idea of just like wresting control of Greenland?
Well,
if
I guess
so, they say finally
Denmark does have
they're ready
different
to stand
social
up and act.
programs.
The man who shot dead the former Japanese
Obviously,
Prime Minister
the
Shinzo Abe
Greenlanders would
3.5 years
benefit
ago
from
has
our
been sentenced to
constitutional
life in
protections.
prison.
So I guess there might be a little bit of a shake-up, but
guilty to murder when the trial opened in October. October, but had contested some other charges. Prosecutors say Yamagami was motivated by his hatred of the Unification Church, which had close ties to Abe's Liberal Democratic Party. World news from the BBC. 2 more world leaders say they've agreed to join the Board of Peace President Trump is setting up to oversee the ceasefire in Gaza and any subsequent reconstruction. They are the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the President of Azerbaijan Ilham Aliyev.
Texas Roadhouse.
If they've paid money to sign up.
Big fucking state.
The authorities in the Spanish region of Catalonia have suspended all suburban train travel following a deadly accident on a commuter train on Tuesday. It was the second fatal rail crash in 3 days in Spain. Guy Hedgeko reports.
The train was travelling between the towns of San Sadurní and Gelida near Barcelona when it struck a wall, thought to have collapsed because of torrential rain in the area. The impact killed the driver of the train, which was derailed. Emergency services were at the scene, stopping those hurt and clearing debris. All rail infrastructure is now being checked in the region, and no services will run until safety can be guaranteed. Investigators are still looking at what may have caused Sunday's high-speed derailment in the south of the country. At least 42 people died in that accident.
The Indian Army has been deployed in parts of the northeastern state of Assam after 2 people were killed in ethnic clashes. Mobile internet has been suspended in 2 districts following clashes between the Bodo ethnic community and indigenous tribes. The violence began after a quarrel over a road accident. The world's biggest nuclear power plant is due to restart operations for the first time since the 2011 Fukushima disaster. The Kashiwaza Kikariwa plant's operator TEPCO said reactor number 6 would start generating power on Wednesday evening. The move comes despite safety concerns among local residents. At full capacity, the plant is capable of producing more than 8 gigawatts of power. BBC News.
Nope.
After
Don't want to hear that shit.
Quarantine, they made their public debut on January 10th at a welcome ceremony attended by Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim. Malaysia will host the bears for 10 years as part of a giant panda conservation program signed by the 2 countries last year. We are broadcasting from NHK in Tokyo.
I guess these are the same channels, just delayed.
This is a song about rising waters. Rising waters and the devastation it's causing for people.
I'm gonna be honest, that kind of explains some things.
Rice. Paddy farmers have been growing this grain for centuries, maybe even millennia. A central part of the Indian economy and the diets of billions of us who eat it. But climate change is causing a problem. In one corner of India, rising sea levels are making the soils salty.
He's saying rice doesn't grow in saline water. We can't use saline water till the rain flushes it off.
I would rather listen to the looping beats. thing I'd really like to find is a VTC to join. Like to chit chat while I'm driving, not just listen to Looping Beats radio. Nice to have a Discord that I could hop in and Big Tractor. It would be nice to have a Discord I could hop in and chit chat while I was driving. Not streaming. Even better if they're cool with me streaming while I drive. Chat.
On the right.
Frame rate struggle a little bit. That factory's tough.
Use the right exit ahead.
Oh, fuck. Paying attention to that fucking factory instead of driving.
Keep to the left, and then turn left. Turn left.
This guy's gonna stop for me because I'm in a jerk off. That's fine. You're allowed to drive like shit in ATS. You're allowed to do that. Hey, where'd Looping Beat Radio go? There it is. Psychopath.
straight.
Jesus. Drivers are crazy. They drive like shit. They drive slower than the speed limit. They're all over the goddamn place. The hell was that? Feels like I hit something. Oh well, fuck it. Must not be that important. Didn't get any damage warning.
Ready for war, Joe? How you wanna blow these spots? I know these dirty cops that'll get us in if we murder some wop. Hop in your Hummer, the punish is ready. We be Beatles with noodles, we do this too while he's slurping spaghetti. Everybody kiss the fucking floor, Joe. We crack fuck them all. If they move, noodle, shoot that fucking whore. Dead in the middle of little did we know every riddle to middleman who didn't do diddly. It'll be a cold day and how the day I take it out. Make no mistake, for real, I wouldn't hesitate.
Okay.
Which was a common material used in the manufacture of countertops at that time. Upon examining this dark material, along with the foil-like material and the I-beams, I was left with the distinct impression that the debris was something very special and certainly not of any common or ordinary composition. my father made clear to us that we might never see anything like it again in our lives.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You've been listening to a brief excerpt from the book Ultimate Guide to the Roswell UFO Crash.
I was just going to say, I recognize that passage.
The book is available for purchase at roswellbooks.com. Your purchases made at roswellbooks.com go towards supporting the costs of keeping this channel on the air. Thank you.
According to recent Gallup polls, 75% of Americans believe life exists elsewhere in the universe. 41% believe UFOs seen on Earth are extraterrestrial spacecraft. Life on other worlds, UFOs, and more. If these topics interest you, then you are listening to the right channel, Roswell UFO Radio. We feature the internet's deepest library of amazing and surprising sci-fi drama, including many rarities heard nowhere else. In addition to sci-fi, we also have a thrilling lineup of other shows covering mystery, suspense, and the supernatural. The world's top mix of classic radio drama is right here on Roswell UFO Radio. And to support our channel, visit our bookstore at roswellbooks.com to choose from our long list of books about UFOs and aliens. Thank you for your support and happy listening.
And now, the Hall of Fantasy. Welcome to the Hall of Fantasy. Welcome to the series of radio dramas dedicated to the supernatural, the unusual, and the unknown. Come with me, my friends. We shall descend to the world of the unknown and forbidden, down to the depths where the veil of time is lifted, and the supernatural reigns.
Oh shit, you know, I never checked. No, of course Trucky hasn't been tracking correctly. Because I forgot to restart
what I call its brain. Put the power on, Elizabeth.
Trucky, which is tracking the job status and distances, has to be restarted every time you start American Truck Simulator, or it won't track properly.
It's getting down off the table. And now you'll see a sight that no one else has ever seen before.
Is that right?
Walking around the laboratory. Yes, you're witnessing the first movements of a new creation, superior to man in that it will never tire, a servant to man.
Yeah, Origin Kalispell.
A machine that looks like a man.
I think that's right.
Able to think like one.
The Hall of Fantasy will present the automaton in just a moment. The automaton.
I first met Dr. Eric Ziegler at the conference on scientific research. I knew of him, of course. His name was famous throughout the world as one of the foremost experts on automatic control. It was the closing session of the conference when he made his now famous speech.
And in conclusion, gentlemen, may I say that mankind can expect this technological advance to continue. He can look forward to the future in the secure knowledge that his life will become easier and longer through the advances we make. That he will be free to direct his energies towards the conquering of new frontiers, bringing him closer to the day that he will stand alone over all the universe.
His speech so aroused me that I couldn't help making my way to the speaker's platform, pushing my way through the crowd which surrounded him in order to congratulate him.
Congratulations, Dr. Ziegler.
Dr. Ziegler?
Yes?
My name is Drake Sheridan. I just wanted to tell you I thought your speech was the best thing I've ever heard.
For a second
I take that as a compliment coming
get
from
this
you,
Vista
Dr.
plugged,
Sheridan. I know about your
and I'm going to check it.
Nothing at all compared
See
to
if
yours,
my
sir.
pipes are
Dr. Sheridan,
frozen
I'd like to talk to you further. Why don't you come to my house this evening? What time? After dinner, about 8:30. Here's my card. Well, thank you, sir. You'll be there? Of course. I'll see you then.
Yes?
I came to see Dr. Ziegler.
Oh, your name?
Drake Sheridan.
Oh, yes. He's been expecting you. Won't you come in?
Thank you.
Just follow me.
But the most interesting effect of all, a new paragraph, the success of the automaton of which I am speaking is dependent upon the excellence of the brain I can give him. My work has become so...
Dr. Sheridan is here, Father.
Excuse me. I do hope you'll forgive me, Dr. Sheridan.
Of course, sir.
I was dictating my report on a project on which I am now working. Please be seated. And before I forget, this is my daughter, Elizabeth.
How do you do?
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Drink perhaps, Dr. Sheridan?
Yes, I could stand one.
Yes. Any particular preference?
No.
Would you do the honors, Elizabeth?
Of course, Father.
Dr. Sheridan, perhaps you're wondering why I asked you to come here.
I have been, but I consider it a privilege and an honor to be here.
Thank you for the compliment, but it wasn't necessary. You may be interested to know that I've followed your career quite closely. And from what I've gathered, you're a very intelligent young man.
Well, thank you, Dr. Ziegler.
I'm not complimenting you to make you feel comfortable, Dr. Sheridan. I mean what I say.
Exactly why did you ask me here, Dr. Ziegler?
To talk to you, to see what kind of a person you are.
And here are your drinks.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, my dear. Just right, Elizabeth. Yes. Dr. Sheridan, I'm going to be completely frank with you. I am working on a private project financed with my own money, completely divorced from my work at the Research Institute.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter has been helping me with this work, but unfortunately she does not have the knowledge nor the training to be of anything more than elementary assistant.
I see.
I am interested in finding an assistant who will devote his full time with me to the work I am doing.
You mean you intend to
no
leave
water
the
yet, that's
institute?
fine.
Yes. My work is finished there, and besides, I want to devote more time to this particular project of which I'm speaking.
What's the nature of your work?
Automatic control, of course. Would you be interested in working with me?
It's a great honor, sir.
I will make it worth your while.
Well, I'd like to know exactly what you're working on before I make any decision.
I believe I can trust you. I have a building some miles outside of the city which serves as my own personal research laboratory. We might as well drive out there. That is, if you're interested.
Why, certainly I am.
Good. Elizabeth, get the car from the garage, please. We'll drive out tonight.
You certainly have it well equipped, Dr. Ziegler.
I wanted to show you that you would be working with only the finest of equipment.
What's that?
What's that?
That's the watchman.
It's nothing to worry about, Bart.
Oh, it's you, Dr. Ziegler. I didn't hear you come in.
It's all right. We'll check out with you when we leave.
All right, sir.
Then you open the door, Elizabeth.
Of course.
All right, let's go in. I'll put on the lights. Now you'll see what I've been working on for the past year.
That sheet-draped figure on the table over there, what is it?
My newest research project in automatic control.
But what you see. It looks like a human body underneath that sheet.
Not quite. Here, I'll pull back the sheet.
No, it isn't a human body.
That's correct. What do you think of it, Sheridan? What do you think of my automaton?
Is it finished?
Not yet, but soon, with your help.
A mechanical man. A robot shaped exactly like a human being.
What better form could I give him? After all, our own bodies evolved to what we are today. Why should I attempt to improve on nature?
What do you intend doing with him when you finish?
Tell him, Elizabeth.
Well, this automaton will be able to do all of the hard and painstaking work of mankind without ever getting
Keep
tired.
to the left.
It can fight
And
its
then
wars.
turn left.
It can be the first to explore outer space. It can free mankind to direct its energies to other channels.
I don't
Turn
know.
left.
Oh, come, Sheridan. You look at the automaton as if you thought he was some Frankenstein monster. Believe me, this is the farthest thing from that imaginary creature. This is a work of science. This is not a monster created from the dark recesses of someone's imagination. This is our key to the future.
We'll return to the Hall of Fantasy and the tale of the automaton in just a moment. Back now to the Hall of Fantasy and the tale of the automaton.
Dr. Eric Ziegler, his daughter, and I stood looking down at the metallic figure lying on the table before us. In all respects, it resembled a man, a metal and plastic man, created by the genius of Ziegler.
This is our key to the future. This automaton will free man from labor. Let him develop his mind to the fullest.
How much longer do you think you'll have to work before it's finished?
I can't tell. That's why I need you to help me set up the automatic self-regulation of its brain. Then you haven't developed the system of feedback yet? No. As you are aware, that is the basic machine of all self-regulating systems of automatic control. A man's mind is a complex creation. The mind of the automaton must also be complex in order that it can do the work of a man, in order that it can think and regulate itself.
Why don't you show him what you've accomplished so far in the feedback system?
All right. Now over here is what I call its brain. Put the power on, Elizabeth.
Yes, Father.
I've only begun on the binary system, but watch. It's sitting up,
Aye. And I'll start with Withings, a French company that has already released things like smartwatches and connected scales, but now they have Body Scan 2, which takes readings and works out if you're meeting your health and fitness goals. Of course, I had to give it a try by stepping onto it and grabbing hold of the high-tech handles. It is just like a regular set of bathroom scales, but with a difference. It's doing a cardiovascular scan. The tests are run as I place my thumbs on the sensors, and it just takes 90 seconds. Let's see my results. My heart age is 37, so a year younger than what I actually am.
That's actually really good. It means that your heart pumping efficiency is great.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. Well, that was reassuring. The other voice you heard there was Antoine Jassin. He's the Director of Product Management at Withings, and he told me more about the Body Scan 2.
So Body Scan 2 is our latest product that we are announcing at CES this year. It's first at-home longevity station that can deliver a complete cardiovascular and metabolic assessment at every weigh-in. We are able to measure more than 60 biomarkers that we translate into a health trajectory, a new concept that we are introducing to tell you whether you are gaining or losing healthy years.
And it's easy to use, you just step on the scales.
It's really easy to use. It's a form factor of a scale, so a device we all know, we are used to use. You just step on it every morning, and it will assess all of these 60 biomarkers in about 90 seconds, just for you every morning.
And cardiovascular health obviously so important given lifestyles today.
Yes, so cardiovascular health is definitely really important. We are seeing worldwide an increase in chronic diseases. For example, hypertension affects 1 in 3 adults worldwide. That's why it's really important for us to be able to monitor being able to monitor these pathologies because they progress silently for years before symptoms appear.
This is one of my least favorite areas.
That's why prevention is important. It's to be able to track these silent changes.
Planes with these slow, loping left and right turns.
Scan 2. Now, we've all heard of health trackers for things like heart rate and sleep patterns, but what about an area I don't think we've ever discussed on Tech Life before?
Speed limit 70, but I can never get up
That's a stage in
over
a woman's
60.
life before the menopause. Well, I came across a wellness device designed to do just that. It's called Perry, and it looks a bit like a slim bar
give
of
me a
soap.
fucking break,
Once
and
it's
then
attached to your
45
torso, it
into
monitors
some
the
shithole
symptoms.
backwater
It gathers
town.
and assesses data collected from sensors,
No offense
and
to
then it
anybody who
offers
lives in a
advice about
shithole
how to
backwater
deal with
town
issues
like
like hot
myself.
flushes or anxiety. Heidi Davis is the CEO
To be honest,
of
I think
Perry.
if you live
She
in
gave
one
me
of
the
these
rundown.
shithole backwater towns,
So Perry is
you probably
the first
hate it
wearable
more
that
than
can actually
the city
objectively
people
detect perimenopausal
don't
symptoms
live in
and
shitty
provides
backwater
actionable insights via our
shithole
AI engine
towns.
to help women understand what's the next best step. We have 4 sensors in it. It's an EDA, it's an accelerometer for motion, we have blood flow, and we have temperature. And what we spent 5 years doing is running trials, building our own database, and then building algorithms that are totally unique to Perry to detect symptoms.
And the device goes onto the stomach, and women wear it for how long? How does that work?
Perry actually sticks on under the breast with an adhesive. It has 7 to 10 days wear time. You can wear it when you're bathing, swimming, living your life as normal. And you can go on here and you can see all your scores once you pair it with your own phone. We track your cycle all through sensor technology, activity, hot flashes and night sweats. And after your first 7 days, you will get your first insight, which is AI generated.
What's your message to women potentially going through this phase in their lives
looking for solutions and not really knowing what's out there. So what we really created this for is for women that are wondering, am I in perimenopause? They might have been to their doctors and been told they're okay, but they know they're not, or they've tried everything out there. We made Peri so that you can get those answers, understand your body better, and really not navigate in the dark anymore and stop the guesswork and get real data behind your decisions.
That's Heidi Davis from Peri. Now, not everything at the CES trade show is for adults. I found health tech for children. While exploring, I came across a company called Earflow. They've made a cup-like device linked to a game to treat chronic ear infections.
So my name is Dr. Intan Oldakovska. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Earflow.
Okay, and why did you decide to look at ear infections in children?
Yeah, so we were actually at Stanford by Design and we were shadowing ear, nose and throat clinicians, and we saw that ear infections and then that leads to ear tube surgery is such a big problem, and so many parents really want to avoid surgery for their very young children, often 2 to 5 year olds, and we know that there is already a solution out there that is non-invasive that can help with this condition, but it was never designed for young children in mind, and so we set out on this journey to be able to, you know, turn with a known way to non-invasively solve this problem, but make sure that it's user-friendly for really young children that is really need of this.
Okay, so let's talk about the device then, because you've got one here and I'd love you to explain the tech to me.
Yeah, absolutely. So the device, it looks a little bit like a sippy cup, but it actually has a lot of smart electronics that has air pump that basically can deliver a puff of air into their nasal cavity to pressurize their eustachian tube to open it, and with repeated openings to relieve the negative middle ear pressure and allow fluid that's stopping the eardrum.
Oh, thank God, we get back on the highway.
And how easy is it for children to use?
Yeah, so I can do a quick demo. I know that I'm not a child, but basically all they have to do, they can put their favorite drink, you know, apple juice or water inside this cup part, and they couple it to this part that has all the, you know, air pressure, and you can see that we've created a gamified app with the rocket, and essentially they just have to push their nose into the mask and swallow, drink their favorite drink, and that's all they have to do. And when that rocket hits the star, that means the pressure has gotten to the right level so that the eustachian tube can open. But we also have microcontrollers to stop the pressure from going too high so that it's not uncomfortable for the children.
That's Dr. Intan Oldakowska from Earflow, which is in the final stages of medical approval and should be launching in the next few months. Now, this last bit of tech I'm going to tell you about is something I hopefully don't need right now, but I have seen all over my social media: LED masks. L'Oreal brought their newest ultra-thin LED light therapy masks to Las Vegas. Think of a face mask embedded with lights, which the PR company says targets fine lines, wrinkles and dark circles. They also have a smaller version for around the eyes. Guy Baluch runs the Tech and Open Innovation Programme for L'Oreal Research.
A lot of times when you look at masks, they're very, very bulky and looks almost like you have a hockey mask on, which is nice for Instagram, but maybe for using it 10 minutes a day for, 6 months, it's a bit cumbersome. So we worked with iSmart, which is a company in the UK that helped us develop the thinnest mask in the world that's flexible, that has 2 wavelengths of light.
And so when you talk about flexibility, you talk about comfort, how is that in the hierarchy of things that you're looking at to make this a successful product?
I think for LED masks, today there's a lot of clinical evidence about the wavelengths of light and how they can, regenerate cells within your skin. But there's a usability issue today. Like, if you really want to get the light to your skin effectively, it needs to touch the skin. And to do that, you need electronics which can bend and flex and that can fit any kind of conformity of the face. And so I think that sometimes we look at technology, sometimes it's really a industrial design challenge. And I think I believe that when you look at this kind of technology, you'll be able to do a lot more when it's flexible and thin than when it's, encompassed in a plastic body.
So let's talk about results then, because I'm sure lots of people will be thinking, right, if I use something like this, what difference am I going to see on my face?
With this kind of technology, we have 2 wavelengths of light, 830 nanometers, which goes to the collagen of your underneath your skin, and 630, which actually goes to the cells and regenerates them. and that takes about 2 to 3 weeks to see visible results that people can perceive, and then it keeps getting better and better over months. So if you use it 6 weeks, and then 8 weeks, and then 12 weeks, you consistency improve your fine lines, your deep wrinkles, and you can go, to some of those more difficult wrinkles that take more time to repair.
That's L'Oreal's Guy Baluch. Well, to pull together and consider some more of the health tech that was showcased at this year's CES, I got in touch with a friend of Tech Life who was also in Vegas. She might be a familiar voice to you.
I'm Laura Lewington. I'm a technology broadcaster and author of Hacking Humanity, a book about how technology is transforming the future of our health.
Great, Lara, and I saw you at CES. Did you have a good time?
I had a great time, thank you. CES is always full of surprises and some old classics.
What major health trends did you spot at CES this year?
Well, I think every year there's always this phrase that health tech takes centre stage, and it was as true as ever, but it felt for me this year less about new hardware and more about what we're doing with the data. So this came in many different forms. Ultrahuman, the Ring company, have what they call power plugs, which is the idea of pulling in data on things like snoring and mental health to be able to have a platform that provides more than just activity. And I saw this across lots of companies. It's what Withings were doing. Ellie Health is another company that's really interested in tracking hormones. This year they added testosterone to what they were already able to track through saliva tests, which was progesterone and cortisol previously. So it felt to me it was very much about adding new levels to that data. And of course, with AI's great power, we're now able to make more correlations and understand more. So this data is also becoming increasingly valuable.
When you talk about AI, I noticed there was a lot of AI embedded in health. In fact, probably every single stand that I went to said something about AI. There is a balance, though, to be struck, don't you think, between those meaningful health insights that everyone desperately wants and this kind of hype around AI all the time?
Definitely, and walking around the show floor, you saw the words AI, as you said, added to every stand. Even a massage chair had a big sign that said AI massage. So there's definitely an element of feeling like the term needs to be thrown in everywhere. And in many areas of health, it really is really important and making a real difference to what we can do with all of that data and what we can unearth from it. But I think there are also plenty of stands where it is using the phrase AI for the sake of using it because there's almost an obligation. But I have seen
it feels kind of like
some things that I filmed over the years.
This thing they're talking about, how it feels like AI has to be in
One
everything.
example of this was the
I feel like in this time, that's what it's going to feel like. Eventually, it'll be looked at like
so they could
electric fan, electric washer,
without feeling the strain in their back.
Dryer.
And the way this device
electricity has to be added to everything.
Personalizing the experience.
Eventually, it'll just be a way of doing things that's so integral
to try and better prevent injuries for them. So the AI is also bringing greater personalization to some of the devices we've already seen. And I would say that this year there were far fewer actual devices that excited me. It was more about these new concepts or enhancing some of the stuff that we already knew.
And tapping into a theme I know you're very across, longevity.
Yes. Well, I'm not sure that I was actually so keen on how this emerged in various places. So you had Withings and also the Magic Mirror bringing in this idea of biological age. Now, the question of how we measure biological age is pretty controversial anyway. So this, as opposed to your biological age, the number of years you've been on this planet, it's a look at how your body's functioning and what age it seems. So there are many different ways that this can be measured, and as I've found from various experiments that I've done through postal kits, various tests in labs, depending what you're testing, so it could be your fitness age, it could be your inflammatory age, it could be your immune age, your metabolic age, the figures all come in as totally different. So whilst measuring biological age in different ways allows you to see patterns as to whether your health is getting better or worse, the methods of doing so and that exact number aren't hugely valuable. So although I saw this in a couple of places on the show floor, I actually wasn't particularly excited about it.
And do you think then the concept of using these type of devices in, for example, a clinical setting is something that we're going to see in the future more and more.
Use the left lane ahead.
All of the tracking that we can do on ourselves, I believe, is way more about understanding patterns, our baseline, seeing when patterns change. That long-term data is incredibly useful and way more important than how many steps you did yesterday. So the fact that we can now pull in data on air quality or from continuous glucose monitors expands what we can learn about ourselves and those patterns that we can recognise.
Yeah,
And
what a
whilst these
dickhead.
devices, if we're talking
You
about
deserve
standard
that.
wearables out there, aren't medical devices, albeit some of them do have medical grade sensors, they are increasingly being used
I don't know
as
why
part
the
of our
AI in this
overall
game
health
does that
picture
kind
by
of shit.
doctors. And
Just
there's
merge
been
right
many
into you.
people who've seen
Don't give a
things,
fuck.
go missing their patterns, have felt something is off kilter, and gone to a doctor for further diagnosis and have discovered they have heart conditions,
Shit costs me
even
money.
cancer, episodes of lupus, so many different conditions identified from people seeing these changes in patterns. So I think long term, that's really where we're going to see the power in a lot of this health tech data, whereas now it may be a lot more about how well you slept or how much activity you've been up to.
Upset
Thanks to
seeing
Lara
trucks
Lewington
come
there,
in
author of
because they're
Hacking
going to hit me.
Humanity. It was great having her on Tech Life again.
Fuck yourself. Oh, especially this guy.
Use the left lane ahead.
This is Tech Life on the BBC World Service with me, Shona McCallum. You can contact us about anything you hear on the show, and I'm really keen to know if you use any health tech to monitor your symptoms and to help you stay fit and healthy. Is it a wearable device, and how does it help you? I'll run through our contact
Do you use any
details
tech
in a
to
moment.
monitor your health?
Last
No.
week we were talking about robots
No, I
helping
don't.
us in the
Just I don't
home.
care.
Janice Churcher from Vancouver
About what the
Island
tech
in
says.
Canada emailed us to say that she listened at 3 a.m.
Grok
She wrote, I
can
tried to imagine a
only
robot in
hardly
my
be
house
trusted
as
to
I
write
have many
code.
art objects, some fragile. A robot
You know,
would need to be
you use
incredibly
Grok
well developed before I'd let it
GPT to
free.
write some code. You
Glenn
still need to
Brathlin also
look
emailed
over it real
from
careful.
Vancouver. We must be popular there.
Not ready to
Glenn
turn
has a
over
robot
health
vacuum
decisions
cleaner,
to the
but the
AI
company that made it has gone
brain
bankrupt
sloppy
and now
job.
it won't work in intelligent mode. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Glenn, but more importantly, I really hope your carpets are still being cleaned. On the BBC World Service Facebook page, we asked if a robot could take over one household chore for you, what would it be? Penny Brayfield replied, cleaning, but it would never do it well enough. I tend to agree with you there, Penny. Lee Waller said putting the laundry away, while Lee Wilkins and Sean Knight both wrote ironing. Yes, I think that would also be pretty handy. Mark Billington might be onto something. He typed putting the cover on the duvet. And let's end with this one. A listener in California, going by the name Echo Bravo, wrote down dealing with the cat litter box. I don't have a cat, but I can imagine that would be extremely useful. If you want to contact us, our email address is techlife@bbc.co.uk, or you can WhatsApp us a text message or a voice note. Our number is +44 330 1230 320. Please include your name and the country where you live. I'll repeat those details at the end of the programme. Now, for the next few minutes, we're going to be talking about digital currencies. You don't have to be a big company to own or trade in them. Lots of individuals do too. And if you own cryptocurrency, thieves could be targeting you personally. It's hard to say for sure, but some estimates suggest around 560 million people own crypto coins around the world. As the number of people owning crypto increases, the number of crypto thefts is also increasing. Last year, criminals stole more than $3.4 billion worth of crypto coins, according to the firm Chainalysis. The BBC cyber correspondent Joe Tidy has been looking into this for us.
The idea of cryptocurrency, as first envisaged by an anonymous person or peoples called Satoshi Nakamoto back in 2009, the idea was that you could send money or a digital form of money from one person to the next over the internet, almost like an email really, with no intervention from any bank or financial institution. It's sort of monetary freedom is how it was pitched. And the idea as well is, of course, you are your own bank. So, you know, if you want to store your money or your currency or your value or savings in cryptocurrency, the only people that have access to that are you. You have your special seed phrase and it's all encrypted and everything's very secure. And over time, what we've seen with cryptocurrency is it's gone from being a sort of currency to really a store of value. So people sometimes describe it as digital gold. There are problems with that in terms of like what's happened lately with the price, but that seems to be the sort of trend now, is that people aren't really buying coffees with this stuff, especially not in Western countries. They are buying Bitcoin and other currencies in order to hope that it goes up in value. And of course, the benefits of being your own bank also come with risks.
Absolutely. So who is stealing cryptocurrencies then? Are they smart teenagers, hackers, or traditional criminals?
I think it's a mixture. So last year we had a warning from a crypto research company called Elliptic. They do kind of investigation, tracking different transactions across the blockchain. Because of course that's the thing about cryptocurrency, is every transaction that is made is publicly viewable. So you can trace where the money goes when it's stolen, but you just don't necessarily know who is the owner of the wallet, who is in charge of that money. And Elliptic said what they are seeing is a big trend towards individual wealthy crypto owners being targeted by North Korean hackers. So North Korea has, in the last sort of 5 years, become absolutely expert at these really monstrous high-profile cyber attacks against cryptocurrency companies. For example, last year there was the record-breaking 1.5 billion hack of the Bybit crypto exchange, which is being blamed on North Korea. But what Elliptic said is they're moving towards individuals as well. So that's the issue, is that you've got these very, very well organised and experienced cybercrime groups that are sponsored or at least ordered by a regime like North Korea, going after individuals. But then also, as you say, it is bored or talented or greedy teenagers as well. I spoke to one young person who is in the US. He wouldn't tell me anything else about him, and he's made a lot of money. He reckons about $1.5 million from going after wealthy crypto owners by finding out their details and then carrying out various types of attacks, so social engineering attacks, that kind of thing. And you've got to sort of take all this with a pinch of salt, especially with that type of criminal who likes to brag about things. But he showed me that he is the owner of $700,000 worth of Bitcoin. He proved that to me in an unfakeable way, I'll say, which he claims was from one victim.
And you did speak to two victims as well, Helen and Richard. Can you tell me about them?
Yeah, so these are a couple from the UK, and they had a horrendous situation where they had been stacking and storing and buying up a crypto coin called Cardano for about 7 years. And they were buying it when it was worth pennies, and then it became, worth dozens of pennies, and they saw their value rise quite a lot to around $300,000. And then somehow some crypto hackers managed to find their way into the cloud storage sort of accounts, where unfortunately they kept the details for their crypto wallets. So as I mentioned, but when you're your own bank, you're the only one that can move those coins and send those coins across the blockchain, unless someone manages to find their way into your wallet details, and that's what happened to them.
Is there
this is American Truck Simulator.
No, and that's one of the sort of fascinating and tragic things about their story.
Exactly what it says on the tin.
When you are a victim of crypto theft, all your money is stolen and it's transferred to someone else. But the kind of sort of a painful part of it is that you can watch your money being moved around the blockchain. You can see, it went from this wallet to this wallet to this wallet to this wallet, but there's nothing you can do about it. Because until that person who's behind the theft interacts with a legitimate organization, so a cryptocurrency exchange, for example, like Binance or Coinbase, until that happens, and it doesn't happen often with criminals, there's absolutely no way you can find out who the person is behind those transfers.
It just seems so miserable, doesn't it?
It is, and I spoke to a couple, and
Dead by
particularly
Daylight.
Richard, which isn't his real name.
Nope, I've never played it. I don't usually play shooting games.
His parents, it's the worst thing that's ever happened to him. This was their life savings.
I'm a big fan of shooting people,
and they had
like
high
driving
hopes for
and flying.
the value of those coins rising. And they're not rich individuals. They have sort of normal jobs. He's a composer and she's a personal assistant, and it's really wiped them out.
That's Joe Tidy, the BBC's cyber correspondent, telling us about crypto thefts from individuals. And Joe's written an in-depth article all about this. You can find it on the BBC News website.
Pretty much American Truck Simulator and Flight Simulator. little bit of a game called Kerbal Space
Well, I
Program.
hope you enjoyed this episode of Tech Life, particularly my look at health tech. If you see any interesting tech to monitor or help improve your health, I'd love to hear about it. Tell me how it helps you. Techlife at bbc.co.uk is our email address, or you can WhatsApp
Pretty
us
much
a
anything with
text or voice
simulator
message
attached
on
to it where you're driving something.
+44 330 1230 320. Remember to include your name and where you live. Today's edition was produced by Tom Quinn and presented by me, Shona McCallum.
In the U.S., about 11% of children and 6% of
very
adults
late in the
have
evening.
attention deficit
Trying to be a little quiet.
or ADHD. More adults, especially women, are getting diagnosed than ever. As more research emerges
the game's
about
too
what
loud.
ADHD
I'll
is
have to.
and how
I'll
to
take a
treat
look at it
what you need to know about
next time I stream.
It's the latest installment of our series.
The streaming machine
Next
is
time
not
on 1A.
next to the gaming machine, so it's
Join us
not
this morning at
convenient to
9
fix
on
that.
Public Radio 89.5.
Support for Public Radio Tulsa is provided by the founders of the Shining Honor Project, funding the cleaning and honoring of veterans' headstones by adults with developmental challenges through partnerships with A New Leaf,
Let's see, we
Gateway,
actually
and
need to
other
start thinking about
caregiving
gas.
agencies. More at shininghonor.org.
Oh, check that shit out. Convenient.
Public Radio 89.5, KWGS HD1, Tulsa. National Public Radio for Northeastern Oklahoma.
Did I make?
Good morning.
Yeah,
Israeli
yeah, I did.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is joining President
It's
Trump's
actually just a
Board of Peace.
V-roid.
European leaders are worried Trump wants a rival to the UN, that Trump will lead even after he's left office. It's Morning
Made
Edition
it in
from NPR
V-roid
News.
Studio.
After an ICE agent killed Renee Macklin Good, Minneapolis mayor told ICE to leave. The governor told people to create a record of officers' actions.
Did I go right?
Navigation
Henry
resumed.
Martinez, now the Justice Department is accusing them of conspiring against immigration enforcement. Also, the Supreme Court hears arguments today in Trump's attempt to fire a member of the Federal Reserve Board. It's Wednesday, January 21st. On this day in 2010, the Supreme Court ruled that limits on how much money companies and unions can spend on political campaigns
Turn left.
violates the First Amendment. News is next.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. President Trump is still
What do you
flying
stream?
toward Davos,
Dead by Daylight?
Switzerland, to attend the World Economic Conference. He's running late. That's because Trump flew back to Washington last night and switched airplanes. The White House says the Air Force One jet had a minor electrical issue. When he arrives in
How did I
Davos
guess?
Forum, Trump's remarks will be closely watched.
Alright, let's see how the
NPR's Mara
fuck do I get
Elias
in
says
here.
Trump was originally going to Switzerland to talk about
Truck
affordable housing.
straight.
Instead, he's been kind of fixated on
I
taking
follow
over
you on
Greenland.
Twitter. Thank
It
you.
would effectively mean the end of NATO, which he acknowledges. He was asked how far he would
I
go to take
will
over Greenland.
definitely go
You'll
follow
find
you
out. He didn't
as soon as I'm
repeat his
done.
threats to use military force. He said that he'll come to an agreement through talks with NATO, something that NATO will like. NPR's Mara Eliason reporting. Allied nations are reacting strongly to Trump's Greenland push. He's warned he'll impose tariffs on 8 European nations if they don't give in to his views. Some European officials say if Trump does
I
that,
gotta figure where the
European Union
hell.
Parliament may respond with a tariff package of $100 billion on American
Okay, I think I'm supposed
So
to.
far, 9 countries have agreed to join what President Trump is calling a board of
I think I'm supposed to go all the way
As
down
Fang reports, it appears designed to rival
back
the
around to the
international
fuel.
reach of the United
Oh
Nations.
fuck! I'm supposed to go this
Prime
way.
Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced this week his country would join, along with countries including Belarus and Morocco. China's foreign minister said Beijing had received an invitation but did not confirm if they would join, like Russia, which said it was, quote, studying the details before making an answer. According to a copy of the board's charter obtained by NPR, Trump has asked countries to pay a $1 billion membership fee to join the board, and Trump would serve as board chair indefinitely. The Board of Peace was originally pitched to help govern the ruined Gaza Strip as part of a ceasefire deal with Israel last summer, but in its current proposed form would seek to energize international conflicts around the world, potentially rivaling the UN. Emily Fang, NPR News.
Doctors in Minnesota are sounding the alarm about federal immigration agents in hospitals. From Minnesota Public Radio, Erica Zurich reports Some patients are worried about being targeted in medical facilities.
Physicians are voicing concerns for patients as thousands of federal officers have poured into the state. Dr. Erin Stevens is the legislative chair for Minnesota's section of the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. She says the presence of ICE agents intimidates patients and obstructs access to care.
Many of our patients, undocumented immigrants, naturalized citizens, and U.S.-born citizens alike, fear leaving their homes for access to health care.
I don't know
express to
why.
us a feeling of being hunted.
Stevens says that some patients are giving birth alone, while others are missing, canceling, or postponing prenatal care appointments. For NPR News, I'm Erica Zurich in Minneapolis.
This is NPR. The U.S. Supreme Court hears arguments today on whether President Trump can fire a governor of the U.S. Federal Reserve. President Trump claims Lisa Cook engaged in fraud, but hasn't provided evidence. Governor Cook has denied the claim.
$650 to fill the tank.
From political
All right,
pressure.
give me a second. I'm going to have a
Federal Trade
cigarette
Commission is appealing
and say good morning to my
that
wife.
stems from an antitrust case involving
As
the
it is
parent
about
company of
6 o'clock in
Facebook.
the morning here.
The case hinges on whether Meta
And we'll
bought
be
the
right back.
apps Instagram and WhatsApp to eliminate competition. NPR's John Ruwitch explains.
The FTC filed the lawsuit in 2020, and last November, a federal court ruled in Meta's favor. The court said Meta does not currently have a monopoly and faces competition, particularly from TikTok and YouTube. The FTC maintains that Meta has held a dominant position and reaped record profits for over a decade, quote, not through legitimate competition, but by buying its most significant competitive threats. Those threats, the FTC says, were Instagram and WhatsApp, which Meta bought in 2012 and 2014, respectively. The district court rejected the argument. The case is one of several launched by the government to try to curb the power of dominant tech platforms over everything from internet search to social networking. John Ruwitch, NPR News.
News reports say the head of the IRS is reorganizing the agency days before tax filing season starts. IRS leader Frank Bisinano is installing 2 whistleblowers as leaders in investigations and internal consulting. Both whistleblowers worked on investigations into Hunter Biden's taxes. I'm Corva Coleman, NPR News in Washington.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include FJC, a foundation of donor-advised funds working to maximize the impact of charitable giving and to create customized philanthropic solutions. Learn more at fjc.org.
In the U.S., about 11% of children and 6% of adults have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD. More adults, especially women, are getting diagnosed than ever. As more research emerges about what ADHD is and how to treat it, what you need to know about the condition. It's the latest installment of our series, In Good Health, next time on 1A.
Join us this morning at 9 on Public Radio 89.5.
The 39th Knippa Interfaith Ecumenical Lecture will present the distinguished biblical scholar, the Right Reverend Dr. Will Gaffney of the Bright Divinity School in Fort Worth, Texas. She'll be speaking on introductions and reintroductions, a womanist approach to women on the margins of Scripture. She'll be speaking Sunday afternoon, February 1st at 4 o'clock at the Grace Lutheran Church at 2331 East 5th Place. The lecture is free to the public.
Support for Public Radio Tulsa is provided by Philbrook Museum of Art. February 11th, the museum will open 3 new exhibitions. Guests are invited to explore photography by Gordon Parks, pop art by Andy Warhol, and an interactive experience.
Turkey and Qatar to the board, but U.S. officials said those countries have to be a part of the solution. Other Trump allies like Javier Milei in Argentina and Viktor Orban in Hungary are joining. Egypt now says it's in, along with the United Arab Emirates. Even Belarus and Russia have been invited to this board, eh?
All right, so why are some countries hesitant to sign on?
Yeah, I mean, many countries, particularly in Europe, are worried that it looks like Trump is trying to create an alternate to the UN, and they're dubious about this invite list. I mean, the UN actually endorsed the Board of Peace back in November. It was in a Security Council resolution backing Trump's 20-point plan for Gaza. But as you said, the charter for the Board of Peace doesn't even mention Gaza, and yesterday Trump himself suggested that the board could replace the UN.
Well, it might. I mean, the UN just hasn't been very helpful. I'm a big fan of the UN potential, but it has never lived up to its potential. The UN should have settled every one of the wars that I settled. I never went to them. I never even thought to go to them.
You know, that's a line that Trump often repeats, though he went to the UN to get his Gaza plan endorsed, and he's relied on UN peacekeepers in other areas where he says he's solved conflicts.
Any other holdouts outside of the European nations that are skeptical?
Yeah, you know, Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney, he spoke at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland yesterday about a rupture in the world order, and he was asked then whether he was planning to join. And he expressed some reservations about how the board is structured and that it doesn't seem to be focused on Gaza. Take a listen.
It needs to coincide with the immediate full flow of humanitarian aid into Gaza. We are still not where we need to be. Conditions still are horrific.
Hello, did we lose Michelle? All right, I think we lost Michelle Kellerman. She was going to talk about how the President of Canada, Prime Minister of Canada, is also balking at that big price tag, $1 billion that it takes for permanent membership to Donald Trump's Board of Peace. Michelle, do we got you?
I do, yeah.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. We were just hearing from Carney.
Yeah, I mean, he's also balking at this $1 billion price tag for the permanent membership to Trump's Board of Peace. He says Canada is going to write checks to help Palestinians directly. And, you know, Trump administration officials say that $1 billion payment is voluntary if a country wants to become a permanent member beyond the 3-year term. And by the way, Trump is supposed to chair this board as long as he likes, even beyond his presidency. And he does seem ready to have a fight for this Board of Peace. When the French president, Emmanuel Macron, indicated he might not join, Trump threatened a 200% tariff on French wine and champagne and said he thinks that's going to change Macron's mind.
All right, that's NPR diplomatic correspondent Michelle Kellerman. Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.
For more on President Trump's Board of Peace, we're joined by Mary Robinson. She's the former president of Ireland and a founding member of the Elders. That's a group of former world leaders first convened by Nelson Mandela to work for peace. We last heard from her in August when she was visiting Egypt's border with Gaza, and she joins us again now. Madam President, good morning, and thank you for coming back on the program.
Good morning.
So NPR got a leaked copy of the charter of Trump's Board of Peace. There's no mention of Gaza, as our correspondent mentioned. It makes President Trump chairman in perpetuity, and countries would need to pledge more than $1 billion for permanent membership. What do you make of this Board of Peace?
Well, I too have been looking at the charter, and I don't call it the Board of Peace. I call it the board of the power of one person. It is totally bizarre, and countries should not support it at all. It is not a peacemaking organization.
When you say it's not a peacemaking organization and countries should not support it at all, say more about why.
Trump is responsible for drawing up the charter. He invites to membership. He decides that you have to pay $1 billion to become a permanent member. Otherwise, it's 3 years. To leave, you have to give notice to Trump. Trump has the exclusive authority to create, modify, or dissolve subsidiary bodies. Trump is chairman for as long as he likes, and then he chooses his successor, and the successor will choose their successor. And we now know that he is bullying people if they say they don't want to become members. I mean, it is an outrageous way of moving away from what the Security Council thought a board of peace might focus on, which is Gaza. And even then, the Security Council somewhat caroled into agreeing to support the idea. But this is something that is trying to replace the United Nations, and in particular the Security Council. Yes, they are flawed, but
that'll work out
need, an organization that was created for all countries to meet on the basis of sovereign equality.
So you see this Board of Peace solely as a project to empower President Trump?
Yes.
The $1 billion contribution for countries to gain a permanent seat, I mean, is that something that can even be done ethically?
How in the hell? Now that I got into this fucking place, how do I get out?
It is elevating
straight.
richer countries to official permanent membership, and poorer countries cannot qualify.
This was supposed to be about Gaza. As you have said, as our correspondent has said, Gaza is not even mentioned. So where does that leave the territory that this was supposed to be about?
Well, I think, Prime Minister Carney was right.
Navigation resumed.
That there is a rupture now in our system, and President Trump is largely responsible for it. But I think we have to acknowledge that although President Trump withdrew from the Paris Agreement and now from the UN...
Pixel, I don't know if you're still there. I will say I don't do DMs or chat, especially not on Twitter.
We must defend the rules-based
Life
order.
is just easier
all
that way.
Other countries must affirm their support for the rules-based order, not for this power of one person.
Where's that switch at?
Who will decide on all the key issues relating to peace. It is outrageous.
But also something that Prime Minister Carney said was that part of that rules-based order was a fiction, and it could be used to subjugate, which it is being done.
Go, dude.
And you mentioned the $1 billion payment for permanent membership advantages wealthier countries, but isn't that also true about the UN Security Council?
I'll be damned if I'm doing doubles.
Advantaging more powerful and wealthier countries.
Okay, you're all criminals.
There is something very wrong with the
I was here
Security
next.
Council.
Don't you know how stops go? Four-way stops, man.
The power of the world in 1945.
Whoever gets there first goes.
Urgent reform. There is a process to reform it, which I'm very
650 feet,
keen on.
turn right.
It's called Article 106. It allows for review and reform
Turn right.
of the United Nations because it was recognized that it was not going to be perfect. It would need reform, and it does. It needs to reflect the multipolar world that we have, but do it in a rules-based way, and do it in a way that engages and protects smaller countries as members of the organization. And I would like to see less use, obviously, of the veto, or maybe if we could manage it,
use the left lane ahead
altogether. But the composition of the Security Council needs to change to reflect the multipolar power in our world today, the power of countries that are not reflected in the organization. That is a problem, but we can solve that problem. We do not need this board of the power of one Trump imperial
use the
idea.
left lane ahead.
It is crazy, and I'm sorry that countries are even thinking about it, because they shouldn't be.
Well, let me ask you about that, because there are world leaders already joining it. Yes, much of Europe has balked, but others are joining it. Do you see it possibly gaining legitimacy and influence and rivaling the UN Security Council?
It's hard to see it getting legitimacy when the power is the power of President Trump alone. That is not legitimacy for any global order. And we see
No, you dumb asshole. He's the President of the United States. That's pretty much the legitimacy you need.
Look at the situation in Gaza.
God, NPR. They have the coolest takes. The smoothest brains.
And OCHA has estimated on the 15th of January that 463 Palestinians have been killed and 1,269 injured since the ceasefire. That is appalling. Yes, humanitarian aid has improved slightly, but it's still greatly reduced. There's a de facto annexation of Palestinian lands in the West Bank, and now they bulldozed yesterday the office of UNRWA in East Jerusalem, and the world is not paying attention. It is appalling what's happening. It's a silent, trying to undermine any possibility of a two-state solution. So we need the international community to re-engage with, and there is an executive committee now on Gaza.
We'll have to leave it there. Former President of Ireland and member of the Elders, Mary Robinson, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
This is NPR News.
On the next Fresh Air, are ICE agents in Minneapolis breaking the law? And how is that being played out on the streets and being battled in the courts? We talk with Elizabeth Goitein of the Brennan Center for Justice and Emmanuel Malleon of the University of Minnesota Law School. Join us.
This afternoon at 3 and tonight at 9 on Public Radio 89.5 and online at publicradiotulsa.org.
One of the most powerful ways you can support in-depth, independent journalism on Public Radio Tulsa might be sitting in your garage. If you have a car, truck, motorcycle, or boat you aren't using anymore, how about donating it to this station? Your old vehicle will help fund the trusted reporting you rely on every day. You can find out more or start your vehicle donation at publicradiotulsa.careasy.org.
I'm Indira Lakshmanan. Best-selling author Jeff Kinney took his Wimpy Kid profits and built a bookstore. Now he's building all over Plainville, Massachusetts. It's a gift to his hometown.
We're lucky because my books were successful, so we're really trying to put our resources towards building a place where we can come together as a community.
Next time on Here and Now.
This afternoon at 1 on Public Radio 89.5.
Support for Public Radio Tulsa is provided by Topeka Coffee Roasters, a farm-direct coffee company committed to a sustainable and ethical coffee future. From their farms in El Salvador to their cafes in Tulsa. More about their mission and roasted-to-order coffee at topekacoffee.com.
Made possible by your financial support. Public Radio 89.5, KWGA.
Support for NPR comes from this station and from Fisher Investments. As a fiduciary, Fisher Investments is obligated to act in their client's best interest. Learn more at fisherinvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss. From Luminescence Foundation. Luminescence Foundation is dedicated to shedding light on neurological research focused on Alzheimer's and Parkinson's diseases and supporting land conservation initiatives. From the NPR Wine Club, now shipping to additional states. Whether purchasing a few wines or joining the wine club, every purchase supports NPR. Available to adults 21 or older. NPRWineclub.org. And from the Doris Duke Foundation.
It's Morning Edition from NPR News. I'm Leila Fadil.
And I'm A. Martinez. The U.S. Supreme Court hears arguments today in a case that has Wall Street and the financial markets in a near panic. At issue are President Trump's efforts to break with 112 years of law and precedent by firing Lisa Cook. She's a member of the Federal Reserve Board appointed by President Biden. Our legal affairs correspondent Nina Totenberg reports.
Cook's case is not unique, as evidenced by the recent blow-up between President Trump and Federal Reserve Board Chairman Jerome Powell, who was actually appointed Fed Chair in 2018 by Trump himself. Powell, known for a cool head and a quiet demeanor, has consistently avoided direct confrontations with Trump, even as the president's personal displeasure with the Fed chair escalated from behind-the-scenes pressure to public bashing. Here, for instance, is Trump on CNBC last week.
So he either is incompetent or he's crooked.
Just days earlier, the Trump administration hit the Fed with grand jury subpoenas that threatened Powell with criminal indictment for his testimony before the Senate Banking Committee last June. Testimony that dealt with cost overruns at two Federal Reserve buildings being renovated for the first time since the 1930s. The normally reticent Powell finally blew. Here he is in a video post on social media.
This new threat is not about my testimony last June or about the renovation of the Federal Reserve buildings. Those are pretexts. The threat of criminal charges is a consequence of the Federal Reserve setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public, rather than following the preferences of the president.
Indeed, Congress established the Federal Reserve Board 112 years ago after a series of financial panics in the late 1800s. In an effort to stabilize the economy, the legislative branch sought to shield monetary policy from political manipulation by establishing limited terms for Fed governors and barring them from being fired except for bad behavior. Harvard Law professor Daniel Tarullo, a former Fed governor, observes that presidents of both parties always want interest rates to go down, particularly in election years, but that, he says, inevitably destabilizes the economy.
When those long-term rates start to go up because of fears of inflation down the road, what gets affected? Mortgages and business investment.
That said, the actual legal issue before the court today is at least superficially quite narrow. Trump's lawyers will tell the Supreme Court that he's not asking for a free pass to fire Cook. He is firing her for cause. Namely, the administration claims that she falsified documents to obtain loans on 2 different properties she listed as her primary residences. Her attorneys say she listed one of them as a vacation home. The charges against her were lodged initially by Bill Pulte, the head of Trump's Federal Housing Finance Agency. Cook, for her part, denies any wrongdoing whatsoever. Her lawyers, in their Supreme Court papers, note that Cook's mortgage applications were cherry-picked by Pulte to make it appear that perfectly legal mortgage applications were somehow nefarious. And to underline the point, her lawyers point to recent reporting that 4 of Trump's cabinet members, plus his deputy attorney general, and even Pulte's own relatives, have recently made applications for multiple mortgages similar to Cook's without any suggestion of wrongdoing. But the Trump administration argues that once the president has determined that he has cause to fire a Fed board member, that decision is not reviewable by any court. That's a big caveat that essentially hands the president unrestricted power to fire members of the Fed and replace them with his personal picks. That is as it should be, contends Jacob Hubert, senior litigation counsel at the conservative New Civil Liberties Alliance.
Article 2 of the Constitution vests all executive power in the president, and that means that the president has to be in charge of the executive branch and has to be able to remove people who he doesn't want to work with. The fact that we've had a Federal Reserve that functions as it does now for a long time doesn't mean we need to have it forever.
Economists of varying political stripes see the situation as far more dire. With the exception of Chairman Powell, every living Federal Reserve Board chair, plus Treasury secretaries and prominent economists from both parties dating back to the Reagan administration, have signed on to Supreme Court briefs urging the justices not to tinker with the Fed's independence. And top business leaders like Jamie Dimon, the CEO and chairman of J.P. Morgan Chase, warned last week that interference with the Fed, quote, will have reverse consequences, likely raising inflation and increasing borrowing rates over time. Just what the Supreme Court will do is unclear. In other cases last year, the court's conservative majority allowed Trump to remove other agency leaders, at least temporarily overriding federal laws that until now have protected term-limited agency heads from firing. But at the same time, the court's conservatives, in one cryptic passage of an emergency docket opinion, said that the Fed is different because it is, quote, uniquely structured, quasi-private entity that follows in the distinct historical tradition of the first and second banks of the United States. The first bank was created by the first Congress in 1791 and the second in 1816. Should Trump prevail, however, he almost certainly would seek to replace not just Cook, but other Fed governors. Jerome Powell's term as Fed chair expires this spring, but he has 2 more years left on his term as a Fed governor. And unless Trump is able to remove sitting governors, he'll not have a majority of his own appointees on the Fed board during the remainder of his presidency. Chairman Powell is expected to be in the Supreme Court chamber today when the case is argued. Noteworthy is that making the case against Trump and for Lisa Cook and Fed independence will be Paul Clement, who served as Solicitor General for President George W. Bush. Nina Totenberg, NPR News, Washington.
This is NPR News.
The title of Gabriel Tallent's new novel, Crux, refers to the most challenging section of rock climbing. Tallent, a climber himself, embraces the fear that comes with the joy of the sport.
I love that climbing can have this inch-by-inch terror.
I'm Elsa Chang. How that terror is less scary than teenage life on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Support for Public Radio Tulsa is provided by Philbrook Museum, presenting the 10th and final season of the award-winning podcast Museum Confidential, presented in partnership with Public Radio Tulsa. Catch up on previous seasons and hear new episodes at publicradiotulsa.org or wherever you get podcasts.
National Public Radio for Northeastern Oklahoma from the University of Tulsa. Public Radio 89.5, KWGS HD1.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Dave Mattingly. President Trump is scheduled to address the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland today. The president is expected to repeat his insistence that the U.S. needs to acquire Greenland for national security purposes, amid his threat to impose tariffs on 8 European countries if they don't support his efforts. NPR's Danielle Kurtzleben has more.
Trump has been upending relations with many key allies over Greenland. And in the process, he's been threatening tariffs, complaining about not getting the Nobel Peace Prize, criticizing NATO, and posting screenshots of his texts with world leaders.
Before leaving for Davos, Trump told reporters at the White House he believes a deal on the future of Greenland will be worked out where the U.S. and NATO will be happy. Amid ongoing protests in Minnesota, the commander-at-large of the U.S. Border Patrol says federal officers will continue to carry out immigration enforcement operations in Minneapolis.
Our operations are lawful, they're targeted, and they're focused on individuals who pose a serious threat to this community. They are not random, and they are not political.
That's Gregory Bavino speaking yesterday. The demonstrations were sparked by 2 shootings in Minneapolis, including one that was fatal involving federal officers. This is NPR News from Washington. The man suspected of setting fire to a synagogue in Jackson, Mississippi earlier this month has pleaded not guilty to a charge of felony arson. Shamira Mohammed with Mississippi Public Broadcasting says the suspect remains in federal custody.
An attorney for Stephen Spencer Pittman argued his client poses no serious danger to potential witnesses and should be deemed eligible for bond with conditions. Attorneys for the government argued the 19-year-old does pose a risk to witnesses from Beth Israel and his parents. A federal judge denied him bond. Zach Schimper is president of the Beth Israel congregation.
For the judge to detain him until the hearing, I think is the right call. I don't think anybody wants or needs him out. I think he is a risk to those around him. And frankly, I don't know if he has anywhere to go because it doesn't sound like his parents want him at home either.
A trial has been set for February 23rd. For NPR News, I'm Shamira Mohammed in Jackson, Mississippi.
Authorities in Australia say yesterday's shark attack along the coast of New South Wales was the country's 4th such attack in 3 days. This latest incident involved a 39-year-old surfer who received minor injuries after being bitten. The previous attacks off Sydney's coast injured 2 people, including a child who suffered critical leg wounds. I'm Dave Mattingly, NPR News in Washington.
In the U.S., about 11% of children and 6% of adults have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD. More adults, especially women, are getting diagnosed than ever. As more research emerges about what ADHD is and how to treat it, what you need to know about the condition. It's the latest installment of our series, In Good Health. Next time on 1A.
Join us this morning at 9 on Public Radio 89.5.
Support for Public Radio Tulsa is provided by the George Kaiser Family Foundation, partnering with the Oklahoma Birth Equity Initiative to ensure healthy births with dignity and to reduce maternal health disparities. Information at okbei.org.
National Public Radio from the University of Tulsa. Public Radio 89.5 KWGS HD1 Tulsa.
Support for NPR comes from this station and from UKG, committed to making work work. Their HR, pay, and workforce management tools strive to help business leaders build trust and empower their people. More at ukg.com/work. From Fidelity Investments, a dedicated advisor can help build a flexible wealth plan. Learn more at fidelity.com/wealth. Investment minimums apply. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC. And from the Doris Duke Foundation.
It's Morning Edition from NPR News. I'm A. Martinez in Los Angeles, California.
And I'm Layla Falden in Washington, D.C. Good morning. President Trump is arriving at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland today, as Europeans are worrying about whether their alliances with the U.S. will survive Trump's threats to take over Greenland. Tensions between France and the Trump administration are especially high. We go to NPR's Eleanor Beardsley, who has been following from Paris. Good morning, Eleanor.
Good morning, Layla.
So what is the latest
to the left? Well, so far the Europeans are holding their ground. There's a sense that Trump's threats about taking an autonomous territory of the EU and a NATO member, Denmark, is crossing a line. And they say President Trump is using tariffs as a weapon after he threatened an additional 10% tariffs on any nation getting in his way with Greenland. You know, Denmark has sent more troops to Greenland, and this morning France is proposing a NATO exercise be held on the Arctic island and says it would contribute troops. That's not likely to go down well with President Trump. But I spoke with European Parliament member Nathalie Loiseau. She says this chaos in the transatlantic alliance is entirely of Trump's own making. Let's listen.
There was no need to have this crisis when there's a war in Ukraine, when China is threatening Taiwan, and when people are dying in Iran. There are serious crises that the US should deal with Europe and not create a crisis against Europe.
I mean, Eleanor, it really sounds not like the conversations of allies, but the public spats of adversaries. What leverage does Europe have with the US?
Well, for Europeans, a military confrontation with their NATO ally is out of the question. But the EU is considering using its 450 million consumer-strong market for an economic response. And yesterday, the European Parliament refused to ratify, as planned, the US-EU trade deal that was negotiated last summer because it does not include tariffs on US products. And Loiseau told me the EU wants to reserve the right to hit the US with $100 billion in tariffs on US goods that are prepared, she said, and ready to go if needed.
Now let's talk about the relationship between President Trump and France's President Macron specifically, which seems to be getting worse by the hour. Walk us through what's been happening.
Yeah, you know, Macron used to be considered the Trump whisperer in Europe. He used to know how to woo and wine and dine Trump, but he seems to have lost his touch, and there's been a lot of back and forth between the two presidents in the last days. You know, after France declined Trump's invitation to join his new peace board for Gaza, Trump said he'd slap 200% tariffs on French champagne and wine, and this clip has been playing a lot on the French news.
Because, you know, Emmanuel's not going to be there very long.
Emmanuel n'y sera pas. Il ne sera plus.
Longevity.
So, you know, Trump told a scrum of reporters in the White House that basically Emmanuel doesn't count anymore because he'll soon be gone, and Macron's term is up in May of 2027. You know, Trump also released a private text message from Macron on his Truth Social account where Macron calls him my friend and says you're doing a great job, but says, I don't understand what you're doing in Greenland, and then he invites Trump to come to Paris after Davos to talk amongst G7 allies. Trump dismisses that invitation in front of the reporters.
Now, Macron spoke at Davos on Tuesday. I'm assuming Trump came up?
Oh yeah, well, not directly, but he made a thinly veiled swipe at what Europeans perceive as the chaos and betrayal of the Trump administration. He called Europe a predictable and loyal place. Let's listen to Macron.
We do prefer respect to bullies. We do prefer science to plotism. And we do prefer rule of law to brutality. You're welcome in Europe, and you are more than welcome to France.
So, Layla, the Trump contingent arrives today with a totally different style and message. In an opinion piece in the Financial Times yesterday, Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick said, quote, we're not going to Davos to uphold the status quo. We're going to confront it head on.
NPR's Eleanor Beardsley. Thank you, Eleanor.
You're welcome.
The Justice Department has issued subpoenas to multiple public officials in Minnesota in an investigation.
Yeah, and this is happening as the Trump administration is cracking down and saying it's targeting undocumented immigrants. At times, it's also targeted U.S. citizens in Minnesota. And doctors there now say immigrants are avoiding vital medical care.
NPR's Sergio Martinez Beltran is in Minneapolis. So, Sergio, DOJ subpoenas served to Minnesota Democrats. What's that about?
Yes, the grand jury subpoenas went out to several local and state leaders. They include Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, State Attorney General Keith Ellison, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, and St. Paul Mayor Coley Herr. The Department of Justice accuses those officials of conspiring to impede the feds on immigration enforcement. And you'll remember a comment Mayor Frey made after the deadly shooting of Renee Macklin Good by an ICE agent 2 weeks ago. Frey called on ICE agents to get out of Minneapolis, and Governor Walz encouraged residents to protest peacefully and to record the operations carried out by immigration authorities. He wants the public to help create a database with evidence for future prosecutions. Leaders with the Trump administration said yesterday that Walz and Frey are using heated rhetoric and accusations to distract from the facts.
All right, now, I mean, DOJ subpoenas are serious stuff. So what are Minnesota officials saying?
You know, they have suggested they are unfazed by these subpoenas. They say one where they're weaponizing the Justice Department.
Wow, this guy still hasn't gone.
Do not have to live in a country where people fear that federal law enforcement will be used
all
to
right,
politics
we're done waiting
or
for
crack
this.
down on local
Fuck
voices
this.
they disagree with, end quote.
Yeah, and Sergio, part of the reason state officials have pushed back is because of what they say is ICE's illegal actions in their state.
Yeah, you know, U.S. citizens have been detained, and ICE agents have intimidated people who follow them to alert neighbors of their presence. Federal agents have used pepper spray on protesters, and they're pulling people from their cars. However, Greg Bovino, the Border Patrol chief in charge of the operations,
I
justified
see.
the behavior of his agents in a press conference yesterday.
It's because somebody's a complete fucking idiot douchebag.
Every day is legal, ethical, moral, well-grounded in law.
Last week, a federal judge ruled that ICE agents can
you know how we
not
fix
arrest,
this?
pepper spray, or retaliate against peaceful
Save.
protesters and observers.
Now, you've been there for the last 2 weeks. I mean, tell us how these operations affect the day-to-day lives of people there.
Back to the main menu.
It feels like there are agents
I
everywhere.
ain't fucking with
and
this.
you can
This
see
is
them in-
crazy. What the hell is going on there? And we load back into career. One car gets stuck under the fucking railroad thing. And the train stops, and the car won't go because the train's right there, and the whole thing collapses. Give me a break. Train ought to just plow right the fuck through. Just obliterate the car. Destroy it.
Please proceed to the highlighted route. Turn left.
Oh, that's very cute. Look at it spawning it in, like, in place. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Kiss my ass. You can fucking wait, chicken man. Not in a good mood about that. About the train braking. Or traffic spawning in right in the middle of things.
driver of the train which was derailed.
I'm Olivia New at the BBC in London.
Support for NPR comes from the station and from Uma, a cloud-based phone service for any size business with an automated virtual receptionist, video meetings, and other features to connect to customers and coworkers anywhere at uma.com/NPR. From Charles Schwab, offering investors choices like full-service wealth management, advice, investing, and trading on Thinkorswim. Learn more at schwab.com. And from the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation at macfound.org.
This is the Engines of Our Ingenuity from Houston Public Media News 88.7.
Today, Drawing the Frontier. The University of Houston presents this series about the machines that make our civilization run and the people whose ingenuity created them. Films and television have long shaped our vision of pioneer life on the frontier, but a tiny book of drawings from 1850s Texas gives us a far more intimate and realistic view of that world. Friedrich Richard Petry studied art in Dresden for 11 years before leaving Germany in 1851 for political reasons. He traveled with his brother-in-law and fellow artist Hermann Lungwitz. A year later, Petry and the Lungwitz family reached Texas and purchased a farm about 5 miles from the small German settlement of Fredericksburg, west of Austin. Both men tried to earn extra income from their art, but found few buyers. Petry produced watercolors of family, friends, and the Native Americans who lived only a few miles away. He drew these Native Americans with great humanity, including a mother embracing her child with tenderness.
And then turn right.
He also shows them at ease on their horses and mules, whether
please.
in motion or at rest. Two drawings even show a woman reclining on the back of
Traffic
a
in this
mule,
fucking
as
game.
we might lounge on a couch.
Drives me up a
sketchbook
fucking
of
wall.
Petry's, now in Austin's Briscoe Center for American History, shows us the wide range of his vision, both the life around him and in his imagination. A mere 3 by 5 inches in size, it could be slipped in his pocket and pulled out whenever he had an idea or something caught his eye. Drawings are squeezed in wherever an unused portion of a page could be found. Careful studies for later paintings are interspersed with quick sketches of people and animals. A man on horseback
Anytime
chasing
now.
after
Green light,
escaping
please.
longhorns comes just after a ballet dancer in costume. Studies of his nephew follow a cartoon of a Greek goddess riding a winged horse to Texas. A nursing kitten precedes a page with the odd juxtaposition of a child's head and
This shit pisses me off with the traffic in this game, man. This waste management truck. I have my signal on, I'm like halfway into the lane, and he's hanging back to let me merge. And then as soon as I start getting into the lane, he fucking floors it. He just fucking floors it and flies up, cuts me off. I half want to believe the game is designed for other drivers to be douchebags randomly.
During his brief 5 years in Texas, Petry observed a frontier life dramatically different from the cultured surroundings of his youth. His paintings and drawings preserved much of that new world and allow us a glimpse of the Native Americans' family, friends, animals, work, and play that enchanted his eyes and touched his heart. I'm Margaret Culbertson from the BioBend collection, where we too are interested in the way inventive minds work.
A transcript of this Engines of Our Ingenuity episode, number 3090, is online at uh.edu/engines. Additional episodes are available by podcast.
This week in This American Life, 10 months after the fall of the dictatorship in Syria, a group of Syrian comedians decides to go on a national tour. But it is really not clear what they can say with their newfound freedom, or it's still going to get them in serious trouble.
I don't think something bad will happen to us. Nobody cares about us. I'm not George Clooney. It's a few people telling some jokes. Let them.
Turns out, some people don't. That's this week.
It's tonight at 9. I'm Jeremy Hobson. Next time on The Middle, the U.S. has long been one of the world's leaders in scientific research.
calls on a special episode in partnership with Science Friday, next time on The Middle.
Use the right lane ahead.
It's Thursday night at 8 here on News 88.7.
Hello, I'm Frank Billingsley, and our show Hello Houston on News 88.7 airs from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. weekdays, but you can always enjoy our show by checking out the podcast version of Hello Houston wherever you get your podcasts.
And I'm Celestia Sherman. You can also check out all of our shows, isolated interviews, and even YouTube shorts of Hello Houston on the Houston Public Media YouTube page.
It's Hello Houston. Watch us on our YouTube channel, listen to our podcast, and listen to us live weekdays from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. here on News 88.7.
We dig into the politics surrounding President Trump's foreign policy pursuits in Greenland and Venezuela and share other observations a year into his second term in our regular Wednesday roundup.
Why are you doing 50 and speed limit 70?
9 this morning, looking at an accident out east. Bates Honey's Freeway headed in on 10 before the loop. Once you pass Mercury, several lanes are going to be affected here in a little bit. A right center lane is blocked right now. No help on that scene yet. 70% chance of rain today, 68 for the high, and then the freeze and ice coming this weekend. Keep it here for the latest. Overcast got 61 right now. Let's check the marketplace. I'm Jared Carroll, 550 News 88.
We're watching financial markets on what could be an especially volatile news day for bonds, stocks, and currencies.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by GEP. With GEP Key, Agentic AI, and GEP Smart Software, GEP is at the forefront in agentic procurement orchestration and autonomous supply chains.
I'm David Brancaccio in Los Angeles. A U.S. president talking about taking a piece of a NATO country by force, Greenland, is part of the uncertainty that knocked the Dow Jones Industrial Average down 870 points yesterday, 1.75%. The S&P fell 2.1%. The NASDAQ yesterday lost 2.4%. I spoke this morning to Russ Mould, investment director at the UK-based investment firm AJ Bell.
To be fair, they're not very good at measuring geopolitical activity or risk because it's really, really hard to quantify and second guess what's going to come next. But we've certainly had a very soft start to the week after the American Martin Luther King Day on Monday. We've had US markets start the week in the red, and Asian and European markets have lost some of the momentum that they had this year, and they're in the red again today.
There is a sense of uncertainty that even our pros, with all their market screens and information that they digest, can't fully parse.
One of the most intriguing things in the final quarter of last year and the initiative of this year was the word tariff wasn't really being discussed by stock market or bond market strategists anymore. They felt that we knew where they stood with that, where markets stood with that, the possible effects were factored in, and now this conversation's starting again, which I think is another reason why we have markets losing a bit of that early year positive momentum.
Now, I assume you're going to be paying close attention to markets as the live feed comes in from Davos, where President Trump is due to speak. It looks like it's going to be late now because he had to change airplanes. But that could shove markets to and fro.
It could. Everybody has to listen to the most powerful leader in the world and the person who ultimately is in charge of the country that's the world's biggest economic engine. It's home to its world's biggest bond market, biggest stock market, and its reserve currency. So what the president has to say always matters. But under these circumstances, yes, given that nobody's quite sure what he's going to say next.
Always good to catch up with Russ Mould. He's investment director at AJ Bell out of the UK. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yesterday, U.S. and global bond markets also took a dive, with some traders talking of a return to what some have dubbed the Sell America trading strategy. The U.S. 10-year interest rate is at one point was at its highest level in nearly 5 months. Those interest rates have eased slightly this morning, 4.28% on the 10-year. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said he was, quote, unconcerned about that bond market sell-off. Bessent also labeled as irrelevant news a Danish pension fund will sell $100 million in U.S. Treasuries, given Trump's Greenland aspirations. Now, the TOPIX index in Tokyo fell 1% today with a sudden general election called there. Germany's down 0.6% now. NASDAQ futures here are down slightly. S&P futures are up by less than 0.1% now. The U.S. Supreme Court is set to hear arguments today in the case of Lisa Cook, the Fed governor President Trump is trying to fire. Fed Chair Jerome Powell will reportedly be in the room. Marketplace's Nancy Marshall-Genzer has more.
Powell's visit to the Supreme Court would be highly unusual, but he wouldn't be the first Fed chair to attend oral arguments there. Former Chair Paul Volcker sat in the gallery for a case back in the 1980s. The Associated Press is reporting that Powell will attend Cook's case, which is about the ability of a president to fire a member of the Fed's Board of Governors. The Trump administration is accusing Lisa Cook of mortgage fraud. She denies the allegations. Powell's expected to
Whoa. I was in the fucking turn lane. You were in the fucking straight lane.
For months, Powell generally refused to comment as President Trump repeatedly pressured him to lower interest rates. Earlier this month, Powell unveiled a new aggressive stance toward the White House with an extraordinary video in which he said the Department of Justice had served the Fed with grand jury subpoenas related to renovations of some historic office buildings. Powell said the threat of criminal charges was a pretext, a consequence of the Fed setting interest rates independently of what the president wanted. I'm Nancy Marshall-Genzer for Marketplace. Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Progressive Insurance. On the road and at home, customers can simplify their insurance needs and protect what's important by bundling home and auto with Progressive Insurance. Learn more about Progressive and bundling at progressive.com.
Now to a global look at where people are okay using artificial intelligence. A new Ipsos and Google scientific survey finds Americans more leery about the technology than in some other countries. In the U.S., 40% of adults report using AI. In, say, Nigeria, United Arab Emirates, or India, it's near 85%. Marketplace's Samantha Fields reports.
A majority of Americans are more concerned about the risks associated with AI than they are excited about the possibilities.
What we know about the U.S. is there are particularly acute concerns about how it's going to impact the economy or particularly jobs.
Alec Tyson, a lead pollster at Ipsos, says in some other countries Ipsos surveyed, including the UAE, Nigeria, Brazil, and India, it's the opposite. Most people are excited.
I think there is a sense around the world that many of the places surveyed, there's a lot to gain from AI. Maybe the upside there is really clear in terms of closing some of the gaps to information or resources.
Whereas in the U.S., the potential upsides are less clear. David Deming at Harvard's Kennedy School says in these still early days of AI, it's not surprising that people who have less to begin with might feel they have more to gain.
I just think in general, people in middle-income countries have less access to the global economy.
To the left.
AI is a great way to
turn left.
speed up their access, and so it turns out to be much more beneficial economically for people who are less connected.
And maybe less beneficial for people who are connected already and making good money in jobs that AI could potentially do, either now or soon. Paul Kudrowski at the MIT Initiative on the Digital Economy says even before AI, people in the U.S. were feeling increasingly pessimistic about the economy and their future prospects.
And this only accelerates that because there is this palpable sense that this won't make things better because it's not about access to resources and making it easier for people to become more skilled or become more successful. Whereas in other countries that didn't have the access to all of the things that made it easier for Americans to get to this position, this feels like a shortcut.
Kudrowski says both the optimism and the wariness around AI are warranted.
I think the disruption is going to be massive. Within countries, I think it'll lead pretty quickly to further inequality, but in terms of at the country levels, it's going to be a huge leveler in terms of bringing up countries that were struggling to advance and now feel like they've got a cheat code.
And Kudrowski says that's a big part of why there is so much excitement about AI in other countries. I'm Samantha Fields for Marketplace.
President Trump's potentially market-moving speech to the World Economic Forum in Switzerland has been delayed to near midday Eastern time now after an unexpected need to switch Air Force Ones. Marketplace Morning Report from APM, American Public Media.
5:59, it's News 88.7. Good morning. Looks like a right lane or two blocked off over on I-10 westbound. This is going to be before you get to the East Loop. That accident slowing you down in that area. One on the West Sam southbound Philippine. They cleared that one.
Support comes from Austin College, where students engage with a dedicated faculty mentor, experience hands-on learning,
had fun.
And discover their
Thank
own
you for,
academic journey.
driving with me.
Located in Sherman, Texas, north of
And,
Dallas.
we'll see
Learn
you
more
next
at
time.
austincollege.edu.
70% chance you're going to get wet today, upper 60s for the high tonight's low 60, low 70s for Thursday, a good chance of rain.